the faculty, staff, students, alumni, and stakeholders of Cebu Normal University, and our invited guests from partner state universities and colleges, private higher education institutions, and other collaborators, good afternoon. As a concrete manifestation of CNU's aim of thriving, leading, and serving in the new normal, the university, through its Center for Research and Development, launches the Higher Education Connect, or HEdConnect, which serves as a platform that enables educators and education stakeholders to convene, converse, and share ideas, practices, and strategies to hurdle the challenges affecting education during and beyond the pandemic. The university hosts its first session on reframing the landscape of learning, the leaders' voices. To start, let us listen to a message of inspiration and support by no less than the Regional Director of the Commission on Higher Education Region 7, Dr. Maximo C. Alhibe.
Isang mapagpalang umaga sa ating lahat at lalong-lalo na sa ating mga kasama sa Cebu Normal University na nag-organisa ng napakamahalagang aktibidad na ito. Unang-una po sa ating magiting at mahal na Pangulo ng Pamantasan, Cebu Normal University President Dr. Filomena T. Dayagbuel, sa patuloy na tiwala sa amin dito sa Regional Office ng Commission on Higher Education Region 7 and as a zealous partner in the journey to quality higher education in the context of this COVID-19 pandemic and even beyond this crisis. This is an opportunity for us in the region, your office, to show our sincere appreciation to this noble initiative of CNU amidst the challenges of the pandemic. I would like to congratulate lahat po na mga taga-CNU on its 180th foundation anniversary. Wow! The university has aged much and still remains one of the strongest pillars of higher education institutions in the region. Congratulations! And I wish that more blessings will come to the university amidst this crisis and even beyond. Looking into the essence of the pandemic, I believe that life is always full of surprises or unexpected things. They make life more colorful, more challenging, and more worth living. The pandemic is an unexpected addition in the pages of history. I say this as an inner realization of the impact of the current pandemic to our ways of doing things, especially in higher education. There are policies in our movements related to buying of essential goods, in our ways of addressing the needs of our stakeholders, in our respective workplaces or stations, in the ways of conducting our conferences like now, in our processes or approaches in terms of enrollment, graduation, learning and teaching, and in the ways we conduct our daily activities in higher education. So this pandemic, my friends, is a sort of disruption in our ways of doing things, not only in higher education, but also in everything that we do. Normally, a disruption challenges a normal situation, established system, and a social structure. It can either make or unmake a society, a country, or the world if taken negatively. However, I am so much delighted that all of us in higher education consider the pandemic as an opportunity to explore initiative or innovative approaches to survive, to thrive, and to lead in higher education. The essential term that would make us all one is the term connect. Yes, The pandemic is disruption, is a disruption. But positively, it is a disruption that can connect all of us. In what way? We learn to become more resourceful, more creative, more innovative in our plans and activities, just to continually operate as education providers for our co-Filipinos. We become more resilient and more collaborative with our co-partners. Aren't these things manifestations of blessings out of the pandemic? In this context, the theme of this activity, reframing the landscape of learning, the leaders' voices, is a theme that truly is anchored on what is happening today. Our positive attitude towards responding to the pandemic is an attitude of reframing our mindset in order to reframe our landscape of learning. Nobody learns new things without changing or reframing her ways of thinking and doing things or doing new things. The pandemic changes us and higher education to an indefinite modality. As a proactive response, we need to transform the pandemic into an enormous ocean of opportunities. Together, let us survive, thrive, and lead in higher education by connecting to each other in form of partnership, consortium, leadership, either in actual or virtual platforms. Go actual, go virtual. Zoom and Google Meet with opportunities. My dear partners in higher education, we are bigger than the pandemic. The pandemic should not kill our aspirations and dreams in higher education. Instead, this time is the best time to explore and become specialists in innovative technology. We must update by upskilling in our respective functions to fit with the needs of the time and to become relevant despite difficulties and challenges of the present. We must build stronger bridges of partnership with our co-educators and neighbor higher education institutions. More makes success and less makes failure. Let us choose to succeed despite this COVID-19 pandemic. Let us survive, thrive, and lead by building more bricks of educational development packages and connections with our co-educators to continually address the needs of our students, faculty, staff, and stakeholders. Let us learn together, and together let us learn. Mabuhay Cebu Normal University, mabuhay po tayong lahat. Keep up this spirit, CNU, and again, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Director Alhibe and the Commission on Higher Education, for your continuous support to Cebu Normal University's quest for sustaining excellence and cultivating significance. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our moderator for this afternoon, the SUC President-3 of Cebu Normal University, Dr. Filomena T. Dayagbil.
A pleasant afternoon to my brothers and sisters in profession. This afternoon is indeed an academic milestone as leaders converge to share insights, reflections, and practices on how to reframe the landscape of learning amid and beyond the pandemic. When the global health crisis started and school lockdowns were implemented, the academic institutions were actually caught off guard. Like the transition was so fast from our usual face-to-face delivery to the online learning modalities, and we have met a lot of challenges. Precisely as a proactive measure and as part of our 118th foundation celebration, we have initiated this kind of conversation, which is the Higher Education Connect. And this serves as a platform for all of us to share and learn from each other. So that today we have invited very proactive, effective academic leaders who are highly respected in their own fields. And they are representing the different kinds of higher education institutions in the country. Like we have invited a leader from a high and top caliber state university, a leader from a performing local college, from a small state college, from a prestigious private higher education institution, and we are going to listen to a voice from the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization. They're going to share with us what they think about this pandemic, how this affects our academic institutions, and how do we ensure continuity in terms of teaching and learning, research, extension, internationalization. And most of all, they will give us recommendations on how we can thrive, lead, and serve in this new normal. To start with, our first speaker is the first chancellor of the University of the Philippines, Cebu, and the 8th chancellor for the UP system. She finished her law from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she also took up her undergraduate degree in political science. It is during her term as chancellor that various infrastructures have been developed in the 2 UP Cebu campuses. Several research centers also started under her term, among which are the UP Cebu Fabrication Laboratory, the Central Science Center for Environmental Informatics, the RCHEC, the Cybersecurity Research and Extension Center, and the Regional Center for Molecular Diagnostics and Research. She was the former president of the UP Law Alumni Cebu Foundation Incorporated, the UP Alumni Association Cebu Chapter Foundation, and the Legal Alternatives for Women's Center Incorporated. Our first discussant is an advocate in sustainable livelihood for women and currently a member of the Advisory Council of the Regional Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises Development Council of Region 7. Friends, I am very proud to introduce to you the Chancellor of the University of the Philippines, Cebu, Attorney Liza D. Coro.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good afternoon, President Mini.
Good afternoon.
Let me share to you from the perspective of the University of the Philippines, Cebu, our experiences, plans, and insights amidst all this pandemic that we are all experiencing, and even for the post-COVID-19 on what is in store for the University of the Philippines, as well as after and for all the higher education. Let me start off with what I'm going to talk about. Let me start with the pandemic's effect to the UP Cebu. How did we cope and how will we manage the learning disruptions amidst and post-COVID-19? The opportunities for research and extension, and how do we foresee or perceive HEIs in the new learning landscape? Many of us believe that the Wuhan virus was far away and will never reach us here in the Philippines, more so us here in Cebu, but it did. As of yesterday, we already had 36,438 total number of cases. And sad to say, the top confirmed provinces or cities with active cases, Cebu City is number 1, which is why we are still under ECQ until now. Fourth in the line is the Cebu province, and we have Mandaue City as the 5th. And even for the newly announced fresh cases, we have Cebu City, Cebu province, and Lapu-Lapu City as the top 3. This is as of June 26. Here in UP Cebu, you can see all the empty classrooms, empty auditoriums, students' kiosks, and sports fields. They're all empty. So how was it like? Our students were stranded in the dorms and lodging houses, since they wanted to continue with their course requirements, while others had difficulty in entering their provinces and towns. We've had problems with our food, but fortunately, our alumni and UP constituents and the public provided the donations. Not only many of our students were constrained with their internet connectivity and insufficient gadget or equipment, but so were some of our teachers too. So what were the operational principles that guided us in the whole of the UP system? First and foremost, protect the UP community from the pandemic, but at the same time, sustain the continuity of the instruction and learning. And in all of this, you must not forget to consider equity concerns in all of our plans. So how was it like? We had to have the work study from home arrangements because, as we had said, safety first before anything else. Immediately after the announcement of the ECQ, or even before the ECQ here in Cebu, when Manila already declared its ECQ, we had to follow it beginning March 15. So 100% of us had to work from home, and supposedly as well for our students. Institutional Zoom was immediately procured. Our university virtual learning environment was revisited. We had to have refresher webinar trainings for Google Classroom and Microsoft 360's features for the non-users. We've had subscribed to this way before, but a lot of them were so used with the traditional classrooms. And so this were not being used by them, be it the Google, be it the UVLE, be it the Microsoft 360 features. Individual internet connectivity was the biggest constraint. Students and teachers want to stay on inside the campus, especially for wet laboratory requirements. This aside from accessing UP's strong internet. So I had to impose a strict rule on who can get inside the campus to discourage them from getting inside the school even before official ECQ declaration was made here in Cebu. But what were our immediate academic actions by the month of March when ECQ was announced in Manila? We had to shorten our semester. By March 15, we stopped holding classes in campus, and we had to end our SEM by April 30. But because of this, we had to modify our course requirements to be delivered only online or by remote means. We recognize all the constraints of our students and even of our faculty in delivering their courses, even if they had to modify them. So the Board of Regents passed a very important policy. Yes, we still proceed with the numeric grade, but this is subject to appeal for a grade of pass only. No fail grade, no cuatro, no incomplete grade can be given. Instead, a student can only be dropped as a grade to be given. Students can be given a deferred grade and will have 1 year to comply with the course requirements. And we suspended all academic rules or policies pertaining to students, like they cannot be declared on PDQ or permanent disqualification. The retention policies cannot also be applied to them. So what were our academic year 2020 to 2021 four pillars of preparations? There are four of them. We looked at the physical infrastructure, the academic infrastructure, the operationalization and the management of remote learning, and the system of student support. First and foremost, with respect to the physical infrastructure, was enhancing the internet connectivity of our faculty and students. We are now looking at in providing internet allowance both to the faculty and to the students. We're looking at also in putting up wireless connectivity in areas without signals, exploring digital TV for internet challenged areas. We are in discussions with LGUs and DITC for enhanced connectivity. We are procuring equipment and facilities for teleconferencing. But here in UP Cebu, especially at the SRP campus, we have the PICARI, that is the Philippine California Advanced Research Institute Prime Project, wherein there is the facility for teleconferencing wherever you may be, as far as the equipment and the gadget are concerned. A computer loan plan for the faculty is also going to be provided. Academic infrastructure. We are enhancing our library as a learning commons. We are acquiring subscriptions to specialized collections of professional fields. If one constituent university of the University of the Philippines has got this subscription, then all of the CUs are expected also to have those materials or databases. We are piloting an upgraded library management system in-house. We are procuring Open Athens for all CUs in the UP system. We are linking to procuring and developing apps using virtual and augmented reality for education. This is especially needed for our laboratories. We are also upgrading the learning management system, which is in-house also to UP, which we call the UVLE, or the University Virtual Learning Environment. A lot of our faculty are not so keen in using our UVLE because of its interface. So we are also improving the interface of our UVLE. We do not have Canvas right now, but we are entertaining and procuring it. But because our faculty are more interested in open source and an in-house one, so UVLE, or the University Virtual Learning Environment, will be the default LMS for the University of the Philippines. How do we operationalize the paradigm shift to learning outcomes and remote learning? We are shortening the semester to enable preparations for remote learning. This will give our faculty time to redesign their programs for the 2020 to 2021 and determine the courses which should be offered in anticipation of the evolving COVID-19 situation. According to the epidemiologists, it might recur again sometime in the end of this year. So we've been looking at how we can really go into remote learning, not just even now, but even before, so as to prevent in times of calamities, when there are concerns about political upheavals. And so we are looking at this one. Determination of the student and the faculty load. It won't be uniform anymore, like a 15-15 or a 12-12 or 18-18. It can be that at the start of a semester, it can just be a 7. At the later part of the same semester will be the additional 7. So it will be a combination of a lot of things. There will be redesigning of courses for the remote and blended delivery and preparation of course packages. This will be prepared online lectures, PowerPoints, resource materials, videos of lectures, then orientation of faculty and staff to the new evolving academic norms and systems through webinars and LMS trainings. We are getting guidance and direction. We have a systems committee on remote learning. There is a CU committee on remote learning. These committees ensure that our faculty are in the loop of what are all the initiatives in shifting to the remote learning. They will be provided with the materials. There will be trainings and webinars and workshops for them on how to use all these materials and databases. In doing all of this, it will be iterative, but quick, time-bound decision-making. We do constant surveys. We do constant consultations with all our stakeholders. As I had said a while ago, we will be shortening the semester. Instead of a 16-week, it will become a 14-week semester this coming first sem of academic year 2020 to 2021. So how are we coping with all of these learning disruptions? We know that at the end of the second semester, because of the COVID, a lot of the courses had to be finished earlier. So when we start with the first semester, there will be bridging programs for our students, especially for those courses which are prerequisite to their current courses. There will be remote learning trainings for faculty and staff, as I had said, and support for faculty, staff, and students, financial or otherwise. So, as far as the research initiatives in the midst of the pandemic, a lot of our faculty found this to be an opportunity. I'm sure a lot of our faculty members did a lot of their researches during the 3-month period that we were under ECQ. But let me just cite some of those researches that we had, which were able to help out during the ECQ time. In our Center for Environmental Informatics, they came up with the heat maps. These heat maps can immediately show where the concentration of the COVID cases are in a specific barangay. So for purposes of granular lockdown, this will be a very good basis. We also came up with a web app, COVID Check, which can do assessment and monitoring of the health status of our people. We have 4 local government units who are now using this web app. And our fabrication laboratory, they did the 3D printing for face shields prototype, as well as for parts of some medical equipment for ventilator machines. They're being approached by some hospitals if they can do the prototyping of some materials which they need. As far as our extension activities amid and the post-COVID-19, as I had said a while ago, 4 LGUs are now using the CovCheck, but even for us here in UP Cebu, we have our self-health declaration, and it is made easy for us and convenient through this COVID Check web app, which was developed by our own researchers here in UP Cebu. We were able to distribute to different hospitals and frontliners a total of about 7,000 face shields, PPE suits, face masks, and varying number of health kits. Just a tip, how were we able to do this? It was our UP Cebu Foundation which helped us in coming up with all of this, after which donations went to our foundation, and so we were able to help more in coming up with all of this. As I had said a while ago, we had the heat maps. Right now, our Technology Transfer and Business Development Office are helping out MSMEs in transitioning to digital or online conduct of business through some researches that are being proposed, be it through the DOST, USAID, and some other government agencies. Our UP Cebu High School is sharing their modular high school educational materials with other public high schools. Our guidance service specialists through the Cebu COPS are providing online psychological and emotional support. And may I also extend this invitation to all the teaching professionals. By July 3, 2020, there will be a virtual forum for teaching professionals in order to address the challenges, issues, and concerns that they experience as they transition into a digital mode of delivery of education and the varied ways of managing and coping with learning disruptions in the current higher education environment. So what is the best way, the teaching tactics that can best serve the new generation? We know the Gen X or the Gen Y and Z have very limited attention span. So we believe that a blended face-to-face and remote learning would be the best way to serve them. And we can have immersive and flexible learning space with a mix of face-to-face, virtual, and experiential coursework. We apply concepts through research projects and internships, and we alternate between independent and collaborative learning to provide a diverse learning experience. We believe that COVID-19 merely catalyzed a long overdue transformation of higher education. What with the globalization, the breakdown of the national borders, the mobility, the demand for compatibility, and the rapid technological changes and the fourth industrial revolution, we are now into digital revolution and the age of cyber physical systems. So how do we see a reframed landscape of learning? There should be now an acceptance of the end of the traditional way of teaching and learning on a face-to-face mode, and we should now recognize the shift to another mode, which is blended face-to-face and remotely. It can be asynchronously or synchronously, real-time or not real-time. We should be able to recognize, as R.D. Alhibe had said a while ago, all the opportunities for innovative ways of teaching and creation of powerful learning environments, be it immersive and experiential, use of the virtual realities, problem-based learning, which I know many schools are already using it, design thinking, which will be good for laboratories, futuristic learning spaces and technologies. We should be able to take advantage of this. And we must not forget to provide inclusive and equitable education. We are looking at into massive open online courses, but now under the Philippine setting. There can be virtual cross-registration beyond borders, or we can even invite now virtual visiting professors, experts, be it in art, be it in literature, whereas before it was so difficult to invite them because they cannot afford to leave their stations, especially those who are from abroad. And lastly, we should think of how assessments can be done even without examinations. I believe through this, we are not only surviving or thriving, but the higher education will be leading when we go into this reframed landscape of learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Attorney Lisa. And I think that was a very insightful sharing of what the University of the Philippines Cebu has done in order to navigate the changing landscape of education brought about by the pandemic. And I would like to really situate the fact that UP has been putting prime importance on safety, academic continuity, and trying to look into the different infrastructure to suit the demand of the times, including the flexible blended solution. I know you still have a lot of questions later on, but we would like to proceed to the second speaker. Our second speaker has extensive experience as leader educator. He rose from the ranks, starting from teacher 1 in the Department of Education, to head teacher, to principal, to superintendent, and to college president. But before that, we will first request Attorney Lisa to also exit first the screen share so we can have our second speaker. Yes, Attorney Lisa?
Yes, I will.
But nevertheless, as we said, while Attorney Lisa is also there, you are. So thank you, Attorney. So I would like to repeat our second speaker after we are done with the proactive measures and listening to the proactive measures of UP Cebu as shared by Attorney Lisa. And for the others who are actually seeing us live, we will entertain questions after all the speakers will have also been given their additional time in this particular conversation. So our second speaker, I would say, has an extensive experience as leader educator. He rose from the ranks, starting from teacher 1 in the Department of Education, to head teacher, principal, superintendent, then to college president. In his stint in the Department of Education, he was responsible for the conceptualization and implementation of the division-wide Project LEAD, which means Leadership Enhancement Activities for Principals. He is a career executive service eligible and has been a dedicated public servant for more than 25 years. Friends, the president of Lapu-Lapu City College, at the same time the president of the Association of Local Colleges in Region 7. So we'll be given a chance to listen to our second speaker who shares with us as president of a local college and as president of the Association of Local Colleges in Region 7. Let's all welcome Dr. Eduardo A. Obad.
Thank you very much, President Dayagbil. First of all, I'd like to articulate my expression of thanks to Dr. Dayagbil for inviting me to this forum on the occasion of their 118th founding anniversary. In this conversation, I will be responding on the series of questions. So my presentation will basically focus on the responses that I will have for all these questions being presented according to the uniqueness of our institution. In response to the first question, how does the pandemic affect your, by the way, I would like to have my slides first. Once again, good afternoon to all. And as I was saying, I will be responding on the questions that are being posted. The first question has something to do with how does the pandemic affect the institution or agency or higher education in general. I believe that institutions, whether big or small, share the same experience in terms of the disruption that it has caused to the operation. First, it has caused greatly in terms of the administrative systems and processes. Every institution has put in place several systems and processes in order to be able to deliver effectively the services to our clients, to our students, and to our stakeholders. But all these processes are being put on hold during the time of the pandemic so that we have a difficulty of coping or responding the demands of time, being in a local college. So with that, we keep ourselves busy in terms of trying to reconfigure the kind of processes that we are going to put in place so that in a way we will be able to continue to deliver the services that are needed by our students, by our clientele, as well as our stakeholders. Secondly, in terms of curriculum implementation, it has greatly affected. First and foremost, it interrupted our classes with closure of the school for face-to-face learning and interaction. Second, the school activities, all of the school activities that we have lined up for the entire school year are suspended. And we are faced with the challenge on access to technical infrastructure, competencies, and pedagogies for distance learning and the requirements of the specific program. Considering, as I was saying, that has something to do with the consideration of the kind of system that we have at the moment, being a local college. On the second inquiry about how does our institution or agency strategize to ensure continuity amid and post-COVID-19 on the following areas. First, teaching and learning. Second, research. And third, extension and internalization. You know what, during the time or the onset of the pandemic, we're like living in a VUCA world wherein we experience a very volatile situation. Aside from that very volatile situation, we are also dealing with some elements of uncertainties, being a local college, and we are also confronted with a very big and complex problems, and with that, with a very high sense of ambiguity. the only way for us to be able to respond to the situation is to strategize ourselves, to make a plan of action so that in a way we will be able to survive as a local college. This, at our end, we are preparing a simple action plan or a strategic plan for us to be able to continue with our mandate. But later, the kind of strategic plan that we have utilized, we changed the name into no longer a strategic plan, but we changed it into a learning continuity plan based upon the issuance of chief guidelines in the implementation of flexible learning. The learning continuity plan of the institution reflects the framework and system for the transition and integration of flexible learning approaches anchored on the existing tools and resources of the institution, capability of our staff and faculty members, as well as the capacity of our students. Rather than presenting to you a very lengthy and very comprehensive and detailed learning continuity plan of our college, I think you'll be able to appreciate more if I am going to walk you through the process in terms of the preparation. The slide that I am showing you right now is not the entire process, but it is just a portion of the process in terms of the preparation of the learning continuity plan. As you can see, there are a lot of consideration in terms of coming up with the key result areas that will serve as our guidelines, so that in a way we will be able to develop our strategies for our institution. And in that way, we would also be able to identify our performance indicators, as well as the programs, activities, as well as tasks in relation to the strategies that we have developed. As I was saying, the key result areas is basically the focus for us to be able to develop our strategies. The first three colored gray boxes represents actually the process in terms of analyzing the situation. So we are going into consideration the different aspects of provision of our institution, the functions of our institution in relation to instruction, research, extension, and if I may add, in terms of production. Of course, we also look into the factors being considered in terms of the decision making for us to be able to come up with the best strategy for our institution. If in terms of aspects of education provision, we look into the philosophy of our institution. So we look into the mandate of our institution. We consider the vision, mission, as well as the objectives of our institution, and we are comparing that with the capability of our teachers, as well as the resources that we are available as of the moment, in consideration of the functions of the institution. Secondly, the second aspect of education provision that we have analyzed has something to do with the implementation of the curriculum. You know what, the policy standards and guidelines of our outcome-based education are heavily premised on face-to-face learning conditions. And because the learning conditions that are set for that particular purpose will no longer work during the time of the pandemic, we think of migrating some of our courses, migrating our courses from the usual face-to-face instruction to remote or flexible learning. And then, considering that we are migrating our courses, we take into consideration the design as well as the development of the curriculum, taking into considerations the learning materials as well as the experiences, learning experiences for the students. And of course, we look into the possibility of how we are going to uh, assess the learning of our students, including the supervision of the remote learning, so that in a way we will be able to keep up with the standards, policies, and guidelines of the Commission on Higher Education. Of course, we are always trying to consider that. No? Every aspect of the analysis, we always try to consider in terms of making decision as regards the capability of our students, the capability of our staff and faculty members, as well as the resources available in our institution. So these are some of the considerations. And in terms of physical facilities and equipment, we are also doing some analysis in terms of gap, not only in terms of the infrastructure that we have at the moment. We are also trying to consider the capacity of our students based upon their capacity, internet capability, and also the capability of our teachers in terms of implementing some of our migrated courses. We take into consideration some of these factors so that in a way we will be able to come up with the best decision for our institution. In terms of administrative systems and processes that we have put in place, as I was saying earlier, we are configuring our systems and processes so that in a way we will be able to continue to operate. Again, these are all being considered in consideration of our resources, available resources, as well as the capacity of the capability of our staffs. And we also look into the learning spaces. So these learning spaces are also very important, so that in a way we will be able to configure it according to the needs of our students. And of course, with the observance of the protocol being observed or being set by the Department of Health, as well as the local health officials of the city. And we are also looking into the capability building of our teachers, considering that the competencies of our teachers are basically based on face-to-face learning. We cannot be very certain that all of our teachers are very much competent in terms of handling remote learning. And because of that, we are trying, based upon our available resources and the needs of the teachers, we are trying to develop programs that will basically respond to the needs in terms of scaling up the capabilities of our teachers. Again, as I was saying, these are processes that we have done. This is just a situational analysis so that we will be able to come up with the key result areas that we are looking at that will serve as our guide or a very clear direction on what we are going to do to strategize for us to be able to thrive in this particular period of time. So as I was telling you, we are doing a lot of environmental scanning, both internal and external environment scanning. We do some kind of analysis, and because of that, we were able to identify our strengths, weaknesses, as well as the opportunities and threats that are very basic for us to be able to come up with these key result areas that we have. The first key result areas that we have is the infrastructure for teaching and learning. Second is flexible teaching and learning design. Third is flexible teaching and learning delivery. Fourth is the faculty and staff development program, as well as the safe learning environment. So these are some of the key areas, as I was telling you, that serves as guide for us to be able to strategize ourselves, so that in a way we will be able to survive as a local college. So out of the key result areas, as I was saying, we develop the strategies, and in developing the strategies, we are also able to identify some performance indicators so that we would know whether or not we have been very much effective in terms of the delivery. And then we also include the, the programs, activities, as well as tasks, including of course, the allocation of resources for us to be able to implement the plan. Resources such as human, material, as well as fiscal resources of the institution. So out of this analysis that we have conducted, we are able to come up with the following strategies. First, for teaching and learning, as I was saying, we are migrating our courses and trying to align curriculum competencies. Secondly, we designing the delivery mode of flexible learning using digital and non-digital technology based upon the capacity of our students, as revealed in the survey that we have conducted. So during the time of enrollment, whether we are already done with the enrollment of our students for the coming semester, during the time that we have conducted an enrollment, we are including a survey in terms of the capacity and the characteristics of our students. So with that, we are able to come up with the delivery mode of flexible learning that we will apply for our students. First, it may be in terms of face-to-face or residential for practical work and laboratory work. We might as well consider that, of course, with a configured classrooms and with the observance of the city health protocol, the protocol of the Department of Education in relation to the number of students that we are going to cater for face-to-face. Not more than 10, of course. We have to schedule our students in such a way that we will not be able to have a very large number of students who will be coming into our school for face-to-face. Only then we will do that. We will do that only when the City Health Office or as well as the Department of Health would allow us to do so. And we also are having out of classroom learning mode. It may be in terms of the out of classroom learning mode or the distance learning that we have, maybe online or offline. And the online may be synchronous or asynchronous, whichever mode that will be available for our students, and depending upon the capacity of our teachers as well as our students. As I was saying, those are based upon the survey that we have conducted. And it may be a combination of both mode of delivery. These are the delivery that I have mentioned. The first two mode of deliveries. And of course, considering the kind of students that we have, we are actually serving the marginalized sector of the society. And because of that condition, we are maximizing the use of self-directed learning modules, considering that we would not, as a local college, you would not be able to procure some of the necessary learning management system that might be available at present. We are only making use of Facebook, Messenger, free use of Google Classroom, Edmodo, and others, which may be available for our students. And lastly, for teaching and learning, we have to scale up the training of our teachers for remote learning. This is something to do that I have said earlier, that considering that our teachers are ready in terms, or are competent in terms of delivering face-to-face learning conditions, but in terms of remote learning, there is a question in terms of their capability and readiness. And because of that, we are looking into the training of our teachers relative to remote teaching. Of course, we are very thankful with the regional office, considering that we have been conducting a series of training. The CHED Central Office as well as the CHED, Region 7, are conducting webinars in terms of module preparation and all others, and that helps our teacher a lot. thank you very much to the management of the Commission on Higher Education. In terms of research, to be honest, I may not be in a better position to talk about it, considering that as an institution, we are still groping for a steady footing in terms of establishing a better research pathways for our institution. Just for the discussion, these are some of the initiatives that we have been doing in order to ensure that the function of research in our institution will push through, no matter how difficult the situation is. So the first thing that we have done is the first thing that we are considering as a strategy is to collaborate with and be a part of a consortium with delivering HEIs or with identified center of excellence or development to work and be a part of this research initiative, the research initiative. And considering that the CNU is a center of development in terms of research, I believe that the CNU, it's very timely that the CNU might be able to help us in terms of that particular aspect. You know what, your president, Dr. Dayagbil, is a kababayan. I think I would not have a difficult time convincing her about extending their help to local colleges. And I hope that Dr. Dayagbil is listening to me right now. Secondly, we have continuous improvement and research skills and competencies of faculty and staff through attending webinars on research and taking part in research presentations online where faculty may serve as presenters. You know what, during the presentation of Attorney Coro, she has given us a lot of insights in terms of research, and we feel very much lacking in terms of that. And because of that, we will be focusing our attention. By the time that we'll be able to have a normal situation already, perhaps we will be able to ask the help of Attorney Coro relative to that also. And in terms of extension and internalization, the thing that we are doing at the moment is just taking part in the international webinars on current international initiatives amid and post-COVID-19. We are incorporating international or intellectual elements in flexible learning, modalities, and research. We are also sharing best practices through international networks and online platforms. You know what? We have a memorandum of agreement with the university, 3 universities in Taiwan. But some of the provisions of the memorandum of agreement that we have are not implemented, considering that we have constraints in terms of our allocation of being a local college. So with that, these are some of the things that we are currently doing in terms of extension and internalization. And on the last item, on what are the recommendations for higher education institution to thrive, lead, and serve in this landscape. So my recommendation is basically addressed to the local colleges and universities, considering that we are experiencing similar situations and difficulties. So with that, my recommendation would be migrate courses and align curriculum competencies, scale up teachers training for remote learning instruction, strengthen research efforts, data monitoring, and evidence-based decision making. So it is important that the kind of decision that we make for our institution must be evidence-based, so that in a way we can be very certain about the thing that we will be doing. And then we have integrate environment and health courses in the curriculum. We also have to strengthen environmental policies and hygiene practices, and we incorporate online mental health and medical services. You know what, although these recommendations are very simple and doable on the part of the local colleges, but these things require a lot of rethinking and mind conditioning. considering that in the first place, this kind of consideration requires a disposition of openness in order to adapt the changes confronting us at the moment, so that at least we would be able to give up a growth mindset a chance. And then secondly, it entails a lot of unlearning, a lot of learning, and a lot of relearning, so that in a way we will be able to embrace the gift of the new normal. So I think these are all the things that I can share in relation to the things that we are doing in order to thrive in this pandemic time, in this time of pandemic. So I finally close this. I'd like to finally close this sharing by also sharing to you a few lines from Charles Darwin, which states, and I quote, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." So that's according to Charles Darwin. With that, I'd like to thank you once again, and I hope no matter how big or small the ideas that we are presenting, you also have a little bit of learning from the sharing that I have. Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. President Ed Ombad. Now, if we listened intently to the presentation of President Ed, you would realize that whether we are from a big state university like that of UP and a local college like that of our Lapu-Lapu City College, we realize that we have experienced the same challenges. And what is so motivating is that on the learning continuity plan that was presented by President Ed, and when he also said that they have plans, the faculty, the staff, and other stakeholders have plans, and as far as research, they would like to connect with the university. No problem, President Ed, because we are all coming from Olango Island. We are all islanders. We can assist you, UP can assist you, and all other institutions, especially so that we are all in this together. So I would like to recommend and encourage our Facebook, those who are watching us, our colleagues in the university and our alumni, to also ask questions. Just leave that in our chat box so that we will soon later on try to answer some of your questions based on the expertise of our panel of discussants later. And I would also like to recognize our very supportive RDL Hibe. I think he is watching us live right now together with staff, Sir Don. Thank you so much for all the support. While Sir Ed is exiting the screen, please, Sir Ed, so that we can also have our third speaker, I would like to read some of the comments from our colleagues, like from one of the faculty members, Sir Jarrell Rodriguez. He said that new normal must recognize the end of full-time traditional face-to-face learning. And he said, welcome blended learning approach. So, but according to him, it's a reflection. I just need to learn to be more tech savvy. So God bless all the speakers and God bless CNU. And there's another one, it's a reflection from Dr. Quinto. I'm looking into the extension and I'm thinking of how the arts can move forward based on the sharing of Attorney Coro and from Sir Adambrano. So Attorney Coro mentioned about the internet allowance for students. Well, that might not be possible for a local college like our Lapu-Lapu City College, but we have to look into that for Cebu Normal University in terms of allowance for students. Okay, so shall we move forward? After listening to our two speakers representing a big state university and a local college, we would like to know what is happening up there in terms of our neighbors from the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization. So let me give you the very brief, although she has a long history of leadership in the country and abroad, but these are very, very important things that I would not fail to mention. Our third speaker served as the Deputy Director for Program and Development of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization Secretariat from July 2015 to March 2019. Prior to joining CIMEO, she was the Director 4 of the Office of Student Services and Director 3 at the International Affairs Services in the Commission on Higher Education Philippines. She also served as the vice chairperson of the UNESCO National Commission Education Commission in 2000 to 2010. She was a professional lecturer at the University of the Philippines College of Education and De La Salle University in Manila. Her areas of expertise include internationalization of higher education and transnational education, teacher education, alternative learning, and secondary education. A woman whose passion for excellence is seen and felt across the ASEAN region. The first female director of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization Secretariat based in Bangkok, Thailand. The pride of the Philippines, Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascua Valenzuela.
Maayong hapon sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon. And I'm very pleased to join you in this very important milestone in the history of Cebu Normal University. Congratulations on your founding anniversary, and congratulations, Dr. Dayagbil, for your very esteemed and dedicated leadership. Well, let me first share my screen and share briefly what I have been doing lately on COVID-19 response. So I hope that you can see my screen right now.
Yes, Ma'am Ethel, very clear and
thank you so much. So actually, mid-January 2020, everybody here in Thailand, we were, I think, one of the first in the region to know about this COVID-19 pandemic. And immediately, our Simeo Center for Tropical Medicine based in Thailand informed us of this pandemic, not yet a pandemic, but a concern, emergency of international concern, because something in China is happening. And immediately in January, I decided to immune everybody by having flu vaccine, all of our staff. That time, it was not yet declared a pandemic. And in mid-March, we called off our offices. And that time, WHO already said that it's a pandemic. So I decided to work from home. All of our senior staff should work from home. And I developed policies and guidelines for everybody to observe while we are on work from home. April to June, we are experiencing lockdown, school after school after school, ministry after ministry after ministry. We are in charge of 11 countries in Southeast Asia. And the time I was in the Philippines actually in mid-March, so there was already a community quarantine and lockdown, and the world came to halt. And the rest is history. So immediately in April, I decided to respond positively and to think about how we can help our member countries, ASEAN plus Timor-Leste, experiencing a lot of issues on health, economic, as well as education crisis. So COVID-19 had changed the education landscape as well, and many are actually groping what to do in this particular situation. So my response is to help member countries navigate this COVID-19 pandemic, and I have developed 12 webinar series that started in April. That time, so I thought that we can help understand better this pandemic, and we have lined up a lot of important thematic issues on webinars, starting from health, psychosocial, and wellness of people during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we started to go to academic lockdown, higher education mobility, and we talked about resiliency and connectivity, and a lot of webinars on open learning, open educational resources, flexible learning, as well as other important thematic concerns in science and in culture and the youth. And this morning, we did talk about reaching the unreached during the COVID-19 pandemic and the teacher's call to action. Our goal for the webinars are actually to determine the scalability of international and regional response, how we can help all countries in the region to share teaching and learning innovation. So in this particular crisis, there are a lot of innovation that happened. And I think you are all using or utilizing some of them. And also, we want not to be confined on this COVID. We need rehabilitation initiatives. We also need to respond better in this time of pandemic. So if you will see, all our webinars are done with experts from all over the region and outside and beyond. We even have UNESCO headquarters. We asked this morning Education International from Belgium and all over the region. Now, our response is immediately to call off work. But then we cannot just call off work without doing anything. So we have to develop our commitments for work, and we also have to do a lot of surveys. So all of these responses are in COVID-19 response report of CIMEO, and we did survey with our CIMEO centers. CIMEO headquarters is in Bangkok, but we have 26 CIMEO centers all over Southeast Asia in education, in culture, and in science. So we also are serving ministries of education in terms of capacity building, in terms of research and policy innovation, as well as connectivity and providing strategic platform for discussion. So all our CIMEO centers then, after CIMEO Secretariat closed down in mid-March, all the CIMEO centers also closed down. And some of our CIMEO centers were utilized also for quarantine areas because we have training centers, training facilities, and dormitories. And the time we cannot really, just stop and do whatever is ordinary. We need to do something extraordinary for the region. So we started to pull all the resources together with our CIMEO centers, our partners from all over the world, to share to CIMEO all the learning resources. So I have to quickly move to developing online learning materials and collecting from partners, and you can see that in the CIMEO website. We also offered flexible learning assistance. Like, there are countries that are totally in difficult situations. So we have learners that are marginalized. They cannot go through flexible learning. So there are available educational packages that should be delivered to the learners. And we need to quickly transition all of the learning from the face-to-face to the flexible learning modality using technology with assistance of online and digital platforms. While of course, in the region, not all of our learners would have access to digital technology. So even in advanced countries such as Japan, digital technology is only for 40% of learners. And in Southeast Asia, not all have access to Wi-Fi and digital technology. So we need to talk about also home-based learning, educational packages, and others. But we need the regional guidance, we need the regional collaboration to develop these. So with all our ministers of education, we established the ministerial forum where ministers can talk about it. Before that, we conducted a learning mobility survey because during the lockdown in February, some of our participants in CIMEO programs for CIMEO teacher exchange and also CIMEO TVET exchange programs, they're still out. So some students are in Japan, or they are in Vietnam, or in Indonesia, and some are also in Thailand. So immediately, the decision is to call off. So I have to meet with all the institutions who are participating in our mobility. Well, if you listen to the students, they don't want to go back to the Philippines, but we need to make a decisive action that all the students who are in academic exchange under CIMEO should go home. So we coordinated with universities from Vietnam and from Tokyo and also from Indonesia to send back Filipino students. So we work with the state universities and colleges. They have some students outside, and we really force them. The students do not want to come home, but you need to go because, we don't know what will happen, and if they will get sick, there are no insurance probably, and there will be nobody to take care of them. So successfully, all the students came back, but actually in participating in CIMEO Mobility Exchange, after that we have to move forward. What's next? So in our discussion, in our conference, 56% of our participants in exchange program decided to call off this year. So we issued guidance right away, March, that there is no CIMEO teacher exchange and there is no CIMEO TVET exchange. and that all of these online programs can be made available. So we studied virtual mobility, how we can do virtual mobility for the next semester. And also, we want to have more policy change in the way we do academic mobility. So what's good about all of this is that when you face crisis, you immediately transition to something that is more creative and more developmental. And so Southeast Asia in lockdown, why do we decided to call it off? Travel restrictions. So all countries in Southeast Asia impose all of these quarantine, certificate for COVID. When you travel, immigration issues, they were called off. You can no longer go freely to ASEAN countries. You need also to get visas. All of this community quarantine would be problematic for us. So our decision is, to start anew in circuit breaker mode that we are saying. We need to, rethink our way of academic mobility. And we want to provide a platform in the future where virtual mobility can occur. So next is that we did not stop with institutions. So I asked the ministers in May if they can come together, all of them, to talk about the solutions they have developed and then share with everybody. So luckily, all the ministers joined our webinar and they presented all the responses from the COVID situation up to the school reopening and how they can move forward. So all the ideas, I put them all in the joint statement of Ministers of Education, where they will continue to share, all the innovation in flexible learning, home-based learning, and also to cooperate and continue to provide platform for sharing guidelines or guidance in school reopening. The ministers have their own strategies. For example, in Brunei Darussalam, they still continue with school feeding program. They still continue with loaning some devices for students, maybe 10 to 20,000 digital tools were loaned to students who are in need, those who don't have access to Wi-Fi. Singapore also developed their own home-based learning program, and they all tried to reopen, and they have successfully reopened at this time. Cambodia asked all the good teachers to come together and do video lectures of their classes, and they put them all in the ministry website. And in Indonesia, they tried to color code the schools, whether they're ready to open or not, and what will be done with those schools in the areas where there is still COVID. So they sort of map all the institutions in Indonesia and gave them timelines for opening schools. In Lao PDR, we learned a lot about the village, taking concrete actions to help in this COVID situation. And they also use television now. In 70s, we have television, but now most of the countries in Southeast Asia are actually using television, radio to successfully teach during this pandemic. Well, Myanmar also utilized expertise from teachers and have developed their own website to make sure that teachers can really access learning materials. Well, you know very much what happened in the Philippines. So they also have developed platforms, e-platforms like DepEd Commons, and HED also developed the HEdConnect platform where materials can be seen and downloaded at their own homes. Thailand will reopen tomorrow, and they have a lot of platforms for COVID-19 response. So they offer online, they offer on demand, they use television channels, and they will also have face-to-face tomorrow. But they changed a lot of policies, like for school reopening, there will only be 20 to 25 learners in one classroom. There will also be a lot of health and sanitation protocols. Everybody should wear masks. Nobody can go to school without masks, and health sanitizers are provided and temperatures are checked. So Thailand Education Ministry works closely with the Ministry of Health. So therefore, the decision or the policies of the Thai government is aligned with the restrictions or guidance from the Ministry of Health. In Timor-Leste, they also use all the channels, flexible learning, online, TV, radios, because there are so many areas which cannot be reached. And in Vietnam, they're the first to lock down actually in February. When they had the first case from China, they started locking down Vietnam. So that time where all of us are still open, Vietnam already locked down and called off the school opening. So they're now ready, and they have reopened schools, and they have all the online learning materials, and they also have face-to-face now. And well, that's the journey of Southeast Asia, and we can share with you all the discussion, deliberation, and you can actually see in YouTube channel of Senior Secretariat all the discussions from the ministers. So in terms of the situation now, in terms of coming back to school or school reopening, so slowly but surely countries are coming back and opening. So from 190 countries who have locked down, there are already 125 who are now still in sort of lockdown, but a lot already reopened. Including us, since June, we already have 100% back to work here in Thailand since June, and the COVID has been contained with no nothing on transmission. Local transmission is not here, but there are a few cases Thais were coming back from overseas. So what is new in this COVID-19 situation is that we were pushed to flexible learning. I remember last year during the ministerial dialogue, I have put in the agenda artificial intelligence in education and how we can have artificial intelligence in education. I think the time they're not ready yet. So some ministers told me, do you think this is relevant to the region? I said, yes, because the way forward is artificial intelligence without us learning about it, but we are actually using it in everything. So, but the time we were not able to come up with a clear policy on the artificial intelligence in education. But this time, everybody is using digital technology and all of these resources that we are using. Everybody is now transformed. So what appeared to be in 2016, they already told us AI will replace everything, that automation will replace many types of work. But it takes us this COVID to realize it's really happening. You know, there are new learning, there are new pathways, there are new platforms, but we can use home-based learning, but project-based learning is also a good approach. And that, you know, we can say that teachers cannot be replaced, but technology can also assist the good teachers. So in Thailand, for example, they transitioned faster to the use of MOOCs, massive open online courses, to reach everyone during this pandemic. And I think most universities all over the world are struggling. First now is about enrollment and coming back. So not many students would be coming back because COVID brought not only education crisis, it also created a lot of economic hardship to people who lost their jobs because they were considered as not essential in the organization. There are a lot of displacement. So we are thinking that there will be more displacement and that we should be ready with all the new things coming up due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have no vaccine yet. So we are still trying to observe proper health sanitation protocols during this pandemic. And in our way to help the region, we have developed series of webinar series to enlighten the teachers and to help learners understand better this world where we live in now. So we have a lot of teachers help, maybe 300,000, and every time we do webinars, we give certificates for their promotion or for support to their own understanding or personal journey. So many of them are all, with experts on specific fields of discipline. And my key message from the regional organization is that there should be a guiding framework or a guidelines, in other words, because some countries have a whole nation approach to COVID-19 response, that when the minister or the prime minister say this will be done all. An example that I experienced is, Thailand has the Thai Chana or Thai Wins approach. It is an application where everybody should use wherever you go. So you need to use that for entry and exit in all establishments. so that they know who are people with fever or not fever or what. If you have sickness, you are not allowed to go anywhere. You just stay in your own home. So there should be a guiding framework. There should be a guideline for coping with COVID-19 pandemic and how we should resume to this new normal. The second one that we see in this particular pandemic is the leadership. It really matters, decision making, being very decisive, and listening to all. You need to conduct survey, you need to listen to different stakeholders. You cannot just be dictating on everything. You need to have 2 ears at this time and leading the journey to sudden shift. And third is, much as we want to address all the concerns now, we also have to look at the future. Right now, there is an international commission on future of learning. It's talking about learning to become, how you can become. And we need to galvanize and future-proof education. We need to look at the competencies in the next few decades. 2050, what are the competencies? What are the jobs that will be lost? What should I offer? So I should help in science and mathematics, do more data, digital skills. So please think of that. The fourth is that we also need to have good practices, studying carefully good practices from different countries, different universities. We are not alone. We need to look at how other universities are addressing the problem. So it's good that CNU connected everybody and that everybody would share what they are currently doing. Information sharing is okay, but there is no copy-paste, please. You cannot copy and paste in one university what is happening in another one, because everybody has a different context and different situation, different types of learners. So you look at good practices and models, but develop your own unique response. And the fifth one is, don't stand alone, work with others. Look at partners, stakeholders, look at the business sector. My thinking is that, Brunei, Singapore, Cambodia, they look at other agencies and organizations who can help teachers. So they got free Wi-Fi from telecom companies. They get iPads from some companies. These are donated to teachers as well as learners, and they are on loan as well. So sometimes our budget in the organization is limited, but if we expand partnership and networking, it can be further enhanced. So there should be this coalition or consortium that we should think of. And the action points for me are actually CNU as a center of excellence should look now at the content, at the skills required for the 2050 learners. So how should we now move and transition from very traditional way of teaching to the new normal when we use all technology, 70% technology-based, and connectivity. So there should be something that teachers can be connected. Good teachers from the region of Cebu perhaps can connect and share all the expertise, take video and share with each other, and use the context of your region to address the issues and problems. Well, don't forget mental, psychosocial health and emotional health of learners and teachers. In the survey that we did, the first concern of youth and the first concern of presidents of universities in the world, as I read the report from Singapore, it's psychosocial and mental health. So this is a very stressful situation. We need to think of good ways by which we can improve connectivity and social and mental health. Well, social distancing is actually not a good term, but physical distancing may be, because we are social being. We need to be connected. And in order for us to improve social, mental, psychosocial health, we really need to promote connectivity and connection, talk to each other during this pandemic. There should be a recovery plan or recovery phase as well for the universities to transition, identify issues and recovery plan. And the fifth lesson is that we look at the context of our goal for this decade, which is Sustainable Development Goal, promoting quality and equitable education and lifelong learning for all. And we look at Society 5.0 is a goal to have, a transversal skills and more connected, more convergence of different organizations. Let's go into partnership, and if there's anything that Simeo can do for you, please let us know. So I think that's my quick sharing of our journey here, and I hope that you will be safe, you will be healthy, and you will continue to be connected even after COVID. Thank you so much, President.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Ethel, for a very comprehensive sharing on what CIMEO has been doing to assist our member countries, from the very, very good webinar series that you have offered, to the focus on rehabilitation process, then to the educational packages for inclusivity. And I think we would really be reminded that, after all, crisis really breeds creativity and innovation. And in so doing and so responding to that, we really would say, and we agree with you, that we have to take on the following C's: the content, connectivity, context, challenges, especially on mental health, and collaboration. So it is a pleasure having you with us, Ma'am Ethel, and we will after the president. Thank you for giving us the perspective of what our neighbors are doing under your leadership. So for our next speaker, we are looking into, after our big state university, then our local college, then a perspective of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education. We would like to look into what a small state college that is COVID-free has been doing. So, Ma'am Ethel, yes, there you are. Could we start our screen sharing for our next speaker? She is connected, and she has been connected with City Hall since 1986 and has 34 years of teaching experience as instructor, assistant professor, associate professor, and graduate school professor. She was the dean of the College of Education, the vice president for academic affairs, and finally getting the topmost position in the institution as the SUC president to Siquijor State College. During her term as president, she is responsible for the various infrastructure development projects that support teaching, learning, and research. Her institution is so blessed, as I have been telling you, considering that until now, Siquijor remains COVID-free, but it does not mean that they are challenge-free as far as all the stakeholders. So let us try to listen to the president of Siquijor State College and her sharing. Please welcome Dr. Maria Imogen T. Kilikot.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm sorry. I thought you shared screen. Where is it? Share screen. I mean, this one.
While Ma'am Jing is still preparing, Ma'am Jing, just give us a cue while we're preparing. We would like to acknowledge also our other stakeholders and collaborators from Negros Oriental, no, DepEd. So they're also watching us, of course, from Lapu-Lapu City College. Our alumni who are also teaching at the University of South Carolina, they are looking and they are actually listening, and they have said that they're learning many things from the sharing of our highly esteemed speakers and discussants this afternoon. Ma'am Jing, are we ready? There you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Am I on?
Yes, you are. We can see you. We can see your slides clearly. Yes, Ma'am Jing, we can. You may proceed now, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings from the COVID-free island of Siquijor. We are so grateful to the Lord that up to this time, Siquijor has remained COVID-free, and we are continually praying that this will remain in the days to come. So just like other institutions, Siquijor College was also adversely affected because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it really affected the delivery of the mandated functions in instruction, research, and extension. So what really happened after there was the declaration of suspension of classes? on March 19, no, it was March 16 when we started to declare suspension of classes because we felt that it was really very dangerous for us to have residential classes in view of the news on an infection um, that happened on a 13-year-old boy in Manila. So the key officials of Secure State College decided that we are going to suspend our classes even if the province was not yet placed under general community quarantine. It was also decided then that there will be the adoption of flexible learning arrangement for the continuity of the delivery of instruction. However, 2 days after that, the faculty expressed that it's not viable because they have difficulty in continuity. The students also have difficulty of, no, connectivity rather. They have lack of connectivity, they have lack of gadgets, and if ever there is connectivity, it's weak. So on March 19, the province was placed under general community quarantine by the provincial governor. So as an answer to that, we also issued an advisory suspending the classes and also suspending the adoption of the flexible learning modalities, particularly on the online platforms or modalities, because of the reasons already given that the faculty and the students found difficulty in connectivity and also in the use of the gadgets. So after that, the faculty and the management met again, and it was decided that there will be some adjustments that we'll have to make to our processes. So the suspension of face-to-face or residential classes in the middle of the term, because during that time, we were supposed to administer our midterm examinations. However, there was already the suspension of classes. So because it happened in the middle of the term, the teachers had difficulty in having their students acquire fundamental. These are competences that were very basic, needed for the students to acquire more complex competences. And so they had this difficulty of letting their students acquire these fundamental competences, which necessitate hands-on or a practical training, like demonstration in cooking, in welding, in dressmaking, in automotive. And so that led to the teachers to think of what other means they could let the students do to make them acquire the competences. However, it was found out that it's really very impossible in light of the order for students not to come to school. So it was then agreed that the faculty will have to make do with whatever records they have of the students' academic performance as basis for their grades for the second semester. So whatever records they have of what the students have already accomplished were made as the basis for their grades. Some of the faculty who felt that they still had to make some additional requirements to the students were made to reach out to them through whatever means they have so that they could make their students comply with these requirements. For those who lack the requirements, since the faculty already decided that it's hard for them to reach out to these students, especially the ones who are living in areas which do not have connectivity, they felt that the students really were able to get off the hook quite so easily because of the considerations being given to them. They felt that those who lagged behind and really needed help so that they could comply with the requirements were lucky because they were being considered and they were only graded on what record was available to the teachers. And while they didn't believe that there should be pass all policy, they felt that those students who really lagged behind were able to pass the subject quite so easily because of the considerations given to them due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For those students who were on the job training and practicum, especially the ones who were deployed in Cebu, in Dumaguete, and in provinces outside Sikihor, we felt that they really lacked the needed exposure and experiential learning they were supposed to get from the industries or the agencies they were assigned to, because they were pulled out prematurely. They were deployed to the different industries and the agencies that were assigned to sometime in February. And while they were still in the process of being oriented to the kind of work that they are going to do, they were already pulled out because of the instruction given by CHED that OJT students and practicum students must be pulled out so that they will be protected from the COVID-19 infection. For our community extension endeavors, they were also halted because there was the difficulty in going out to the communities and in meeting the adopted beneficiaries of the projects. There were monitoring done, however, conduct of trainings for the beneficiaries, especially those capability building trainings, were not conducted because also of the restrictions on mass gatherings. So those who were involved in the those PCARD funded project, we have the funded project by PCARD, STC for ID. The team went from time to time to the community to do monitoring. However, some of their plans for the first quarter and the succeeding quarter were not implemented due to the restrictions being made, especially on mass gatherings and also on the going out to the communities. For our research endeavors, they were also affected, especially those which necessitated going out to the research locales and environments, when we plan to have benchmarking to other schools so that we could also observe how they did that in their own schools, and we can also benefit from the best practices of other institutions. These plans were put on hold because of the travel restrictions. So only those researches which were conducted online and those which can be conducted online and manually were continued. And while the teachers were at home because the suspension of classes, they were also instructed to work from their homes on the continuity of their research projects. So these were what happened to our conduct of our activities because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Even though Sikihor was during that time COVID-free, we were still constrained to normally do our functions in terms of instruction, research, and extension. And for the strategies that we are adapting or we're going to adapt to ensure continuity in the delivery of our mandated functions amid and post COVID-19. For now, we are already undergoing screening for our first year college, grade 11 and grade 7 student applicants, because we are not restricted to go out to the municipalities. And since the school does not have the capability yet to do online screening of student applicants, a team composed of the BPAA, the deans, the different departments, and some ICT personnel went to the 6 municipalities, 1 municipality per day, This was done after permission was granted by the respective municipal mayors of every municipality to hold the screening process in their own municipality. And as of this time, they have been to 5 municipalities already. And this was also thought of because of the restrictions imposed on those aging 20 years old and below not to go out of their homes. The administration of the entrance for the admission examinations was done by the guidance counselor with the help of some personnel and the rest of the team. And this was also done in every municipality. So while the others in the team were doing the interview, the entrance examination was also done with the guidance counselor. And for those students who have other admission requirements to comply with, like the Ishihara or the color perception test, and the hearing examination test or audiometry for the maritime education students, we are deferring the action on this because the test will be conducted by Silliman University Medical Center Foundation, and we all know that travel restrictions are still being implemented. So this will just be conducted when travel restrictions will be lifted. And this was also arrived at when we consulted FAMI with this situation. So since this is a must for maritime education students, we are having this requirement deferred as of this time of travel restrictions. So once we'll know who are those students who have qualified for our screening, their names will be disseminated through online platforms because we know that Facebook is very much popular to the youngsters and even to people who have the gadgets and the connectivity. We'll make use of that and other social media platforms like Twitter, whatever is there that's available in our locality. Print through a master list that will be posted in conspicuous places in the different municipalities, and non-print media like in radio broadcasting and local cable broadcasting. So this will be something that will be done once we have come up with the qualified applicants for every program or course. As for our admission and enrollment processes, this would still be done by municipality. So there will be 3 rounds of the going out to every municipality so that we could conduct the screening, admission, and enrollment processes. So part of the information dissemination will be the list of the documents or credentials that the students must bring with them upon enrollment. We have been bombarded with questions about we can have online screening for those students, applicants who are not within the province and can't come to the province because of travel restrictions. But as of this time, we are very sorry to inform them that we cannot cater to them as of this time because we don't have the capacity to do online screening, especially on the administration of the admission or entrance exams. For the scheduling of classes, we are already thinking of how we can come up with a way of meeting the needs of the students as well as that of the teachers. So we're thinking that since Sikihor is still COVID-free, that perhaps we can have a one-day face-to-face classes, residential classes for the students. However, there is going to be some adjustments to be made, like for easy monitoring of the movement of students, and facilitate contact tracing, we're going to employ block sectioning per program. So like all education students will be taking the same subject, same time, same days, and there would only be a maximum of 40 students in a class or section, so that the classrooms will be decongested. The class or the section of 40 students would be divided into two groups. The first 20, which will be called Group A, would report to school for a face-to-face interaction with their teachers on Tuesday for their TTH classes, and on Wednesday for their MWF classes. The second group, which will be called Group B, would report to school on Thursday for their TTH classes and on Friday for their MWF classes. So the students will only report to school for 2 days in a week. So like they report Tuesday and Wednesday for the other group, Thursday and Friday. For the rest of the days, they would be at home working on their modules or assignments or whatever learning tasks the teachers would give them to be brought home. So for Mondays, the teachers would have the time to retrieve, collect outputs of students, submit it through online means, or make their instructional materials, again, to be brought home by the students on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. For the delivery of instruction, the teachers are given the option on what instructional modality or platforms they are most comfortable with to use in their classes. So as of now, they're being made to attend webinars on flexible learning modalities, and they are required to make an output on every webinar that they are attending or they have attended to make sure that they have understood, have learned something from the webinar that they have attended, and make samples of the instructional materials that they will be using in their classes based on the teaching loads that they will have. The day allotted for face-to-face interaction can also be used by the teachers for learning tasks which cannot be done effectively online. So there is an option for the teacher whether to do online or to teach the students during these days allotted for face-to-face interaction, especially for like cooking or for those which should be handled hands-on, or those which are experiential in nature, like the welding, the skills, those which cannot be taught to online, those which are to be seen and demonstrated. So the day allotted for face-to-face interaction can be utilized for that. And also, the teachers felt that the integrity of the assessment results is at stake if assessment is done online or there will be home-based assessment of learning. So they are also given the option to use these face-to-face interaction days for the assessment of students' learning. So the teacher really has a free rein on what modality they're going to use, what learning tasks can be done given to the students online or through face-to-face interaction, and they are given the freedom, the academic freedom, to decide on what best method to use and utilize for their students in their classes. For the conduct of community extension activities, we just return to the visit to the beneficiaries in the community. And we have also started with the conduct of capability building activities. But because of the restriction on mass gathering, we have trimmed down the number of participants to 15 participants per activity, including the resource persons and the facilitators. So while normally it would take like 2 days, 3 days for them to finish the training, the seminar, the workshop, then they have already allocated like 5 days, 6 days for the conduct of these trainings. And while doing project monitoring activities, the health protocols were observed and must be observed, like social distancing and the wearing of face masks and the disinfection using alcohol and other sanitizers. For the conduct of research activities, research collaborations will have to make use of online platforms, like now where there is this proposal of proposals that will have to be approved by funding agencies. We reached out to other institutions which have expertise on the nature of the research endeavor that we're going to conduct for collaborations. Travel restrictions have prevented us from going out to these institutions to do the negotiations. So we have reached out to them through online means, through teleconferencing, so that researches can still be conducted even if we are just here in the province through collaborations with other institutions who are in Cebu or in Dumaguete, in Negros, or in Bohol, in other parts of the country. And this will not be affected by the geographical boundaries and travel restrictions that are preventing us from continuing these research activities. That's the most we can do because we are also after of meeting our targets and having our research projects completed on time. As for our recommendations for higher education institutions to thrive, lead, and serve in the new landscape of learning, we know that there's already the shift to online platforms, and it's even recognized that the COVID-19 pandemic maybe has signaled the end of the adoption of the traditional face-to-face learning, though it has still been recognized as more effective than home-based learning and online learning. Higher education institutions must invest in the acquisition of learning management systems. Honestly, we at CK4 still are not at par with other well-established universities in terms of the acquisition of these learning management systems. However, this is something that we'll have to prioritize because of the move to adapt flexible learning modalities. And also corollary to this, capability building activities must be conducted to train the teachers and the students also in the use of these learning management systems. We know that while we do have faculty who are already very adept at using these modalities, we still have faculty who are very comfortable with the traditional ways of delivery, instructional delivery, and we already know that there is resistance on their part to adapt this. So we can only do so much by training them on the use of this LNS so that they themselves would decide what modality they're going to use so that there would still be learning delivery, continuity of learning delivery, the delivery of learning to their students. Information technology facilities and equipment must also be enhanced and updated to support the delivery of online and offline instructional platforms. We know that even if we do have these learning management systems, this would not also be effective if we don't have the necessary facilities and equipment that would be supportive of the delivery of these instructional platforms. we in Sikihor found it hard to adapt this because of the lack of connectivity or the weak connectivity that we have since we are far from service providers. So while there is a connectivity that is provided by a provider in Dumaguete City, they have not been able to provide us with the NDPS that we'll need so that we could reach out to a wider bigger group of users and a wider scope of users. So connectivity, which is always a primary consideration, and the utilization of online platforms must be assured. But this, as I've said a while ago, is a problem for us in small islands and perhaps in other places which are in similar situation with us, who are very far from service providers. But the school has the money to pay for the services of increasing the strength of our connectivity. There is no service provider as of now, which can give us the much needed MDPS that would allow us to make use of this in our instructional delivery. Though this is something which is very challenging for us in the island of Sikihor. And also, there's also the problem of the acquisition of equipment, gadgets for our faculty and our students. While perhaps this would not be a problem in bigger universities or in universities which have students who can afford to have these gadgets. But for Sikihor, we recognize that this is something which is a luxury for some of our teachers and our students. So not all have the gadgets which are needed for online platforms, not just for the teachers, but also for the students. Not to mention the lack of connectivity for some of our students who are living in the hinterlands. Our classrooms also will be structured in a manner that will cater to the new normal way of doing things. Like for everybody to be accommodated in the class or in the classroom, we would arrange the chairs in a manner that there would be social distancing. And for everybody who enters the campus, he or she would be made to step on a foot bath, disinfection foot bath, subjected to thermal scanning, have him wash his hands because we have a washing stand beside the gate, and disinfect his hands through alcohol or other sanitizers before he or she will be able to enter the compound. And this disinfection procedure will also be observed in each of the classrooms. So for those people who will be having a temperature of like 37, they will not be allowed anymore to enter the campus. And they would be reported, 37, that they would be reported to the RHU of the municipality for monitoring. And this, I think, is the most challenging for us. We know that the mindset of the faculty, especially the older ones, who are resistant to change because they are already very comfortable with the traditional way of teaching and learning, must be changed to embrace the reality that they have to adapt flexible learning modalities, including online platforms, to thrive in this business of educating the students. This for me is the most challenging because as of now, while we are doing the webinars, we're making them attend these webinars, they have been questioning why they are made to attend these webinars, of what use will this be to them, and they are expressing their demands on whether they will be given internet allowance, they will be given load allowance, whether they will be given gadgets to use, and whether the students will also be given the same privileges. And this, I think, is, as of the moment, questions that cannot be answered by the administration. So I know that we all have to make some adjustments in our way of doing things at this time of the COVID-19 pandemic so that we can thrive, survive in this um, time of national crisis in our world, in the world that we are facing now. So we know that for us to be able to survive, we have to be pliant and flexible and adjust to the changing needs of the times. So we have to be flexible and adapt whatever there is to be adapted so that we can survive in this ever-changing times of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that's all that I can share from Sikihor, and thank you so much or to the organizers for including us in this very timely and proactive activity in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, which I think would better prepare the higher education institutions to deal with the next academic year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Jing. I think you will realize that based on the sharing of President Kilikot, we really know that even if Sikihor is free from COVID, Sikihor State College is not exempted from all the challenges brought about by the pandemic, and one of which is the internet connectivity. Like they have a problem. In fact, they tried to also suspend the pure online. And that's what you call the essence of flexibility. As what Dr. Valenzuela said in terms of connecting it, well, we talk about context here. So anything that we do in order to respond should be based on context. So as it is also is different from UP, from CNU, or any other. And when you will say the question on whether they will be given additional gadgets, it can be possible in UP, for example. It can be possible in other universities. It can also be possible for all of us, as what Dr. Agnes Valenzuela mentioned. Maybe collaboration can also be done and can be something that we can also navigate. So to really, we are already in our last leg of our conversation, and let's try to see and have our paradigm shift from our state colleges, universities, up there in our Asian neighbors. We will see what a private higher education institution is doing to navigate in this very, very demanding landscape of education. To complete the panel of discussants is our speaker, who holds a master's degree in development communication from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and a doctor in communication from UP Open University. He was ordained into priesthood in 2000 and worked in the parishes of Kenya and Tanzania province from 2000 to 2017 as a Divine Word missionary. He became the Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs of University of San Carlos in 2018. It is expected that his missionary experience, coupled with his academic qualifications, will be of vital importance as he leads one of the prestigious universities in Cebu. Friends, let us all welcome the 11th President of the University of San Carlos, Father Narciso A. Celian Jr., SVT.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. First, allow me to congratulate CNU on the occasion of their 118th foundation anniversary. Congratulations, as well as thank you for this invitation and for being part of this discussion. I'm going to start now my presentation. I hope you're seeing this one on your screen.
Yes, Father. Yes, Father. We have seen it. Thanks.
I've been listening to the earlier presentations and was curious also to know what's going on their side and how they have been able so far to deal with this COVID. We know for a fact it is a universal reality, not only here in our region or in our country for that matter, but basically worldwide. So to contextualize ourselves in relation to how USC has somehow uh, experienced the impact of COVID because of the pandemic. Uh, kind of recalling, going back to months earlier, uh, March 16, 2020, okay, there was a quarantine implementation here in Cebu, and basically that started the suspension of classes. And to put that one into context of USC, we were not yet able to conduct midterm exams. We were yet about to, but again, we were forced to suspend our classes. So there was a kind of immediate reaction from our side to transition from on-campus learning to online method of delivery. It was very abrupt, and yet we deemed it very necessary. In terms of degree of preparedness, of course, nobody was prepared, and the same thing could be said about USC. So there were several discussions on our side on different levels, different uh, units, and most of them were the chairs and the deans, and we were debating on what to do. And we were also listening to the clamor from both from the students and from other sectors. And they were asking for the early end of the semester. After having considered all sides, it was a difficult decision to make on our part, but we somehow uh, decided to uh, continue with our classes, albeit online. So we went with that decision, and again there were some critical reactions, but we understand that there was no easy solution for that matter, because we knew that beyond the uh, possible suspension of online classes, we would be facing other difficulties on the way forward. So again, at that time, I was not yet at the helm of the leadership of the university. My predecessor was still the one was still the president at that time. So we were guided by his decision ultimately, and he basically came up with this statement, and I call a side effect of the pandemic is the acceleration of growth of online education. And thus, for USC, the appropriate response is to carefully document the gaps and seek viable solutions instead of shunting it, referring to online classes completely. So our vulnerabilities, our limitations were exposed, and we said instead of just uh, talking about them, let's make use of this opportunity to address those gaps and to make kind of possible solutions, no matter how inadequate, but taking basically the opportunity to improve our processes. So that's how we decided we would continue our class. Again, it was not a popular decision. Before COVID-19, there were already several online platforms being used in USC. Depending on disciplines, the engineering, they were using Canvas, the School of Law, they were using another, education, they were also using another. But these schools were using online platforms, not really as a regular method or part of their teaching and learning and delivery, but rather as an alternative. And when COVID-19 came in, immediately we did a kind of a survey in our university, kind of environmental scan again, internal, and assessing exactly where we stand in relation to our capability of conducting online classes. And these were the issues that we were able to identify based on that survey. One, of course, there was weak or lack of internet connectivity, and this was very common, especially where our faculty and students are staying. And then there were also no proper devices, again, the case of on the part of the students and faculty alike. And then in terms of experience in the use of LMS, and very minimal, apart from those schools which have already adopted the system, but still very in the very limited capacity. So we were able to determine the weaknesses in our school in that regard. So moving forward, we really experienced that the transition to flexible learning and online was really problematic for us. It was a topsy-turvy journey, particularly for students. And we were listening to their voices. We were trying to uh, discern how to address their concerns. And right away, we were foreseeing some scenarios. One was the late submission or non-submission of requirements from the students at the end of the semester, then lack of participation in online classes for several reasons, of course, one, some of which are things that I already mentioned. And then teacher absenteeism. Not all teachers were able to conduct online as scheduled, again, for several reasons, perhaps uh, problematic connectivity, internet connection, or even emotional, perhaps problems at home. And then another issue scenario that we were looking at was the non-completion of laboratory classes. These foreseen scenarios basically kind of became realities at the end of the semester when we concluded our semester last May. But somehow we were already able to anticipate them and address them as early as possible. So the conversation started, and when the semester finally came to an end, we tried to address these issues as early as possible and uh, release some directives to students and faculty on how to uh, move forward. Then, apart from the teaching and learning issues, of course, we know that this again not a unique issue in USC, how to sustain the personnel and how to continue our operation. Uh, we made a management decision that our staff and faculty will continue to receive their salary regularly. And in fact, we also understood that many of them were really economically struggling. So we also released their 50% of their 30th month pay, and it was greatly appreciated by our personnel. And apart from those programs in the academic division, uh, many other things also were happening behind the scenes in terms of doing service to the community and reaching out to our frontliners. And it was a joint effort or partnership between students and faculty, like the production and distribution of face masks and face shields, and even alcohol, and uh, we the engineering school of engineering also developed an app for to monitor and to monitor cases of COVID-19, and this is already being used by one of the LGUs in the Visayas region. Or another kind of innovation that engineering has done was the introduction of for distribution of rice and other goods, this machine for packaging and measuring of different food items. So those were the immediate experiences of USC as soon as the COVID-19 and the quarantine were introduced. Now, in terms of strategy, again, our conversations had started way back several months ago, and we continue to discuss on this. But I'm trying to make sense of what we have been talking so far here in the university. And I came up with this kind of a model. This might not be a perfect model, but this is how I see it. of course, we adapt flexibility, so we need to be flexible in that regard. We want to be inclusive and at the same time responsive. What do we mean by this when we talk of our U.S. response as a strategy? Flexibility or agility, again, we have already adopted a institutionalized learning management system. So it's a common management system for the graduate programs, for undergrads and senior high school students. And we decided on this to have a common LMS to ensure seamless operation and to have an integrated security and control system and quality assurance monitoring. We realized that if we just use different LMS or even the free versions, there will be issues about security and control, especially when it comes to the grading system, conducting exams, and protection of our documents and other data. So we decided to adapt Canvas and training of our faculty and staff is already ongoing, and everyone is basically encouraged to undergo and go through the training as part of their development. So use of the other platforms, however, are still being used in lower bed. So for example, in one of our campuses, they're using this Genio or Henio and also Google Classroom. The same thing in another campus, synchronous and asynchronous systems. We have given them that kind of flexibility because according to their justification, they have been using this LMS for quite some time and they're already familiar with that. So for now, we say, okay, you can have it since it is something that will work best for you. And apart from the LMS, one of the things that we're also looking at now is we're already doing, and we are still improving on this, is the delivery of services to our students and faculty alike online. So we have been having this online management system. It was not a perfect system in the beginning because it was not really integrated into our learning systems and some other institutional operations. But this past few weeks, we've been able to do some catching up and improve in leaps and bounds the performance and the capacity of this online management system of the university. So online enrollment can now be done. Payment in some ways can already be done, and even communication among faculty and among staff. All these are done in within the system. We're still making use of other platforms like, of course, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google. But we have been able to integrate them into our institutional system. So online institutional management and formation system, online faculty and staff meeting, and of course, with all these, we are mindful of the importance of adhering to government-issued safety and health protocols. There was a time when I think several weeks back when ECQ in Cebu was made into GCQ. Some of our faculty were allowed to come here, and there was a considerable number of faculty who came over, and the presence was significant. And it was an experimental period on our part how to observe physical distancing and management of space and other things. And it was a learning experience for us, and we've gained many insights now that we are on ACQ once again. But we are mindful of the fact that those initial weeks that we have been able to do some kind of on-campus operations were precious for us. Apart from, let's say, flexibility in terms of our approach, I always say that we also looking at inclusivity. In inclusivity, again, we are referring to the kind of support that we are giving to our faculty, staff, students, and even our outside communities. We are also, like other schools, we're doing a loan scheme for our faculty, those who don't have the necessary devices like computers. So we have offering them with the loan scheme. For students, we are helping them in getting internet access on different arrangements. So we are talking to the internet providers and we are negotiating with them on behalf of our students. Communities, of course, is in reference to what we've been doing, the outreach programs. Apart from teaching and learning, many things are happening now in USC when it comes to research. We have already started some collaborations these past few days. Our faculty and researchers are very active. Actually, they're making use of their downtime in the classroom of being more productive in the area of research. And some of them are suggesting maybe we can move towards doing research on COVID-19 related issues. And collaborations and related activities like publications and other things are very much being undertaken now by our faculty and researchers because of the absence of online classes. Some of the things that are in the pipeline nowadays, we are still looking at possible supplements, reassignments. We know that this COVID-19 is not going to disappear anytime soon. So we are looking at really months, even years. It's going to be a long haul for us. So there will be some kind of impact in terms of how we organize ourselves in the university. And we're already talking to different bits in that regard. Support for displaced personnel and students, these are difficult concerns and difficult issues to discuss given the limitations of our resources. But this is part of our conversation. Another is the repurposing of our facilities and spaces. Since students are not able to come anymore to campus, so what are we going to do with the facilities like donation, like auditorium, like even classrooms? So we might have to repurpose them to serve our students online. And then there's a conversation on equipment, infrastructure, upgrades, address connectivity issues. Then, of course, fee adjustments. We have done already this one last semester. We're going to do the same for this coming semester because some items, of course, will not be paid for students anymore. And since, of course, how related to number one is shifting of work schedules and modes of meetings, and thus it will connote or imply staff movements. Moving forward, this is what we are looking now, and I'm trying to adopt a kind of a wider perspective here, not only for USC, but I think for Philippine education in general. So what would be our recommendations for HEIs to thrive, lead, and serve in the new landscape? And I would say there's a need to re-engineer education. Pardon the thought there. Re-engineer education. What do I mean by this? Re-engineering education. We need to reinvent the manner we've been doing education. So much discussion has been done about LMS, about online delivery, teaching, and instruction. But what do we really mean by that? Is it only a matter of adopting a new technology and instead of delivering things in a classroom, you do it online? Or should there be more than that? Because we know that it has to be more than a marginal change. It has to be more than technology. And maybe we need to look at the mindset of educators and the teachers, and even our educational model. So this requires some kind of radical policy shifts and transformational practices, not just marginal changes. So when you say safety protocols, I think they're already given there. Online technology, that's also given. Beyond these things, which are marginal issues that we can consider when we talk about the new normal. What are the other things and even deeper insights that we need to take into account? So in particular, I'm referring to the following. One is we might have to focus more on building competencies over professional skills. I know that we've been discussing about this for quite some time, but I think now more than ever, we really have to hammer this very strongly about producing students who are really very competent beyond their profession or apart from acquiring a profession, that they are really able to function in the industry, not just holding a diploma or a paper, but someone who can really perform. And how do we go about that? And this is where we need to go to item number two. But OBE, we have already been talking about that, this outcomes-based education. But I've been reading many materials nowadays, and I came across with this uh, piece by Father Remigio Aquino, and he's proposing that we need to move from OBE to PPE, problem-posing education. We know that OBE was in a way already a very radical move, and it somehow revolutionized our education system in the Philippines. But I think we need to go beyond that because for all, regardless of the merit of OBE, OBE is still very controlled. You talk about outcomes that are being dictated by the industry. So students, they are taught how to go about the education process with predetermined outcomes and and assess their competencies based on those outcomes. But that is still very limiting. And now we have a realization here in the light of the pandemic. Nobody was prepared for this. Why? Because nobody was asking questions. If there were people who were asking questions, nothing was really done. We were caught off guard in so many ways. And to think that it happened globally, how did it happen exactly? So the proposal here is that PPE we need to problematize life situations. And we have COVID, for example, we take it as an example. Instead of just accepting COVID as part of our fate, part of the kind of inevitable, we need to ask questions like, how did it happen? Why did it happen? What were the things that we could have done to prevent it from happening? We have that kind of forward looking in our education. Then we develop graduates who are not only competent, who are not only able to produce the necessary outcomes, but also very critical in their thinking and very outward looking in their perspective. We problematize life situations because we know that life as we experience it is full of questions and full of uncertainties. We cannot predict the outcomes of life, and it cannot be predetermined. So when we, in as much as OBE has a place in our education, we need to kind of complement it with another approach, telling our students, our graduates, and even our educational system that we have to be more radical than OBE. Letter C, I think, would be related to that. Embrace constructivism. The teacher now has to be seen as facilitator, and the students and co-learners, and the students as the builders of knowledge. They are the authors of what they are going to understand, what they are going to know, what they are going to make sense of. So, and this is, I think, where I would need to emphasize, because apart from adapting online learning, teachers will have to evolve. They have to understand that they are no longer the author or the bearer of knowledge. Everything is available online. Their role is to facilitate the learning process for students. They cannot spoon feed the students anymore and tell them what the students should be thinking or what they should be learning. Maybe many teachers were able to kind of go uh, go with that in the classroom because there was no really proper monitoring. But online, once students go online, they have easy access to many other sources. So why don't teachers make use of that opportunity? So again, there is more to be said here than just online learning or LMS. So constructivism, and to continue, we need to go outside or move beyond linear view of education. That's why I would like to again mention here ETIAP, and I think we need to uh, help out Shed how to promote further ETIAP. We know that some students are very good learners in, let's say, one semester or 1 month, but other students will basically able to absorb the same amount of knowledge in 1 year. Some would need shorter period of time, some would need longer period of time. But that would not make them less smart than or less smarter than others. They are simply perhaps attuned to different orientations in life. And we understand that because even in life, when we go home, for example, some can pick up cooking very quickly, others would maybe need more time. And if things outside the classroom are learned in a very non-linear way, then how come we are making education methodology a very linear thing? It goes kind of against our mindset. So uh, I think we need to have a more conversation on this because ETIAP now and coupled with that with the online learning, I think there will be more possibilities to be explored there, and somehow we can open the door for more kind of uh, planning on how our education can be enriched by this current reality. Uh, Having said all those things, I think the implication is that we need to review and redesign our curriculum. I, I echo what has been said already earlier that our current curriculum on each and every individual university was designed on the premise or within the context of face-to-face classroom instruction. Now, once that curriculum is transported or transmitted online, can it still be the same curriculum? I come from the area of communication, and in communication, there's a scholar called Marshall McLuhan, and he said the medium is the message. You change the medium, the message will also change whether you like it or not. So, for example, I say good morning to you on SMS. Compare that when I say good morning to you by voice, the impact will be different. In fact, the dynamics of interaction will be different. So here I'm talking about curriculum being done online. It will change. And if we're not going to make a review of redesigning our curriculum being delivered online, we will be missing out many things. And we might come up with an irrelevant graduate or non-functioning professionals because the curriculum that was designed for face-to-face is the same curriculum that is delivered online. So we need to revisit that concern. Another is, again, the use of multimodal approach. I think this was already mentioned by many of us, so I don't have to expound on this further. Next is adapt automated online delivery of services. Again, this is self-explanatory. And next is faculty development plus program. I think this is very important because, okay, CPD is familiar. And yet we know that professionalism, again, in the light of this pandemic, is not enough. We know that many of our faculty and even students, they are struggling emotionally and mentally. That's why I said the development class program here would maybe be about personal development. Uh, there are still many Luddites among us, people who are not convinced about the importance of the new technology and people who are refusing to embrace the new ways and methods of doing things. And we need to address these people because if we allow them to continue working with us and they are not really one with us, then our programs will suffer. And we expand that from one university to the whole country, how many of these people we are dealing with, then we have a very serious problem. But we can arrest that problem by going beyond professionalism. We need to reach out to them and ask them, what are they really thinking about, or what are their real concerns? Of course, there are several factors at play here, but we need to pay attention and keep an open eye to these issues. So back to the Development Plus program. Next is improve the participation of parents. Okay, we know that the parents are playing a bigger role now, whether they like it or not. It may not be pleasant for them to realize that their children are at home, and of course now because we are in quarantine, so they are also at home. But when they're able to go back to school, to go back to work, their children are still at home, and yet they have a role to play. So it can be an irritating prospect for them. It can be disappointing for them because they are spending a good amount of money for the education of their children, and yet they are also doing things and they're not being spared from the work. That's why we need to engage the parents and have dialogue with them and make them understand that because education has evolved and it has transformed, part of that transformation would be the role of the parents. And I think that's a conversation that we need to pursue. And I think Chad will have to find a way of making this understandable and at the fore in the consciousness of the parents. Next is the greater awareness on holistic education. I think we understand this one. Many of the things that our students are going through now are not really because of their inability to do things online, but because of the context, because of the situation. That's why we need to go beyond the academic side of our course offerings. In USC, of course, we have a very dynamic program on mental health and counseling as well. So we're trying to reach out to our students. Not all of them can be reached because, again, of the limitation of technology, but we're trying to find ways of really addressing the issues of students and faculty beyond work and beyond studies. And I think as a way of concluding things, let me say these following statements. From my point of view, there are no quick fixes or hard and fast rules to address the educational needs in the Philippines in the light of the pandemic. But there's a window of opportunity here to take a broader perspective, a longer view, not simply as a reaction to the pandemic, but really as an occasion for us to fashion a new and renewed society. This is a golden opportunity. So from the old normal in education, it's time to redefine the role of an educator. Who is an educator for us? Before we have that luxury of options, of kind of negating or denying ourselves from the reality of what would be done in a better way. But now, because of this pandemic, we have crossed the wall and we have to confront the situation. So we need to take a second look at our identity of who we are as educators, clarify the whys and wherefores of HEIs in the new landscape. What is now the role of the HEI? And finally, reboot our educational systems and processes. And there I end my presentation, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Father Salian. And we would really very appreciative for us to have a glimpse of what the university has been doing to respond to the challenges and reframing in terms of the changing landscape of education. And I do agree with you that there is this kind of window opportunity that we can reinvent and we can re-engineer education. And in so doing, we have to make sure that we look at education as non-linear, we look at education in the point of view of, and we have to make sure that in the journey towards addressing all the challenges, we consider the three most important terms that we have emphasized: inclusivity, responsiveness, and flexibility. At this point, we would like to request all our speakers to please join us by putting on your video. It has been a wonderful afternoon of learning with you. We have received a lot of very good feedbacks from our constituents, from our alumni. Thank you, Attorney Lisa. Thank you. I have seen you. We have President Kilikot, Sir President Ed. Yes, we are still await Dr. Valenzuela to join us. And of course, Father Celian. So as I have been mentioning, it is a wonderful afternoon sharing, listening to your sharing and learning with you. So we got a lot of very good comments from the sharing of Attorney Lisa to that of President Umpad with Ma'am Ethel, the Ma'am Jing, and Father Celian. And we have collated very, very good questions that are more or less related. We cannot also have all the questions being given to you because some are also very related to each other. But there's this first question that I would like you to share your thoughts on this. She said that I know that the new normal brings a lot of challenges to us, but these times can also bring about the best from people and institutions. So these past few months, what have you discovered as strengths of your institutions or your academic community, for example, that enabled you to so far hurdle the challenges of this pandemic? Yes, may we have any sharing from any of our panelists? So she's mentioning that this can also be an opportunity to bring the best in people. So what have you observed for the past few months? What are these things that actually you have observed that would strengthen you as far as getting the strengths of your institutions that enabled you to move forward? Yes, I request Father Salian. The last would be the first this time.
By institution, I would refer to the people. Okay,
Yes.
I've realized how passionate our community members are when it comes to education. In some ways, the COVID has served as a kind of wake-up call for many of us here. We were taken out of our comfort zones and we were forced to confront critical issues. What is education all about? And how are we really happy with the status quo now? And because we were kind of shaken to our senses, also interests, I think, again, we're tickled. And I realized that many of our faculty and administrators are really very passionate about education. And they're trying to level up and even rise up to the challenge. And that's what I kind of discovered, that because when you are going through the routines of going to school, having meetings, many things you can simply take for granted. But because this is something out of the ordinary, I have the privilege of seeing what is also extraordinary in our university.
Thank you so much, Father. So Father is exemplifying on the passion and the ability to rise up just beyond the ordinary, but to move higher. May I listen to Ma'am Ethel, because she's handling a very big institution with how many member institutions. So what do you think would be the strengths that you have seen in each one of the member states, even your own staff, Ma'am Ethel?
Yes, thank you, President. I think, well, that's a very interesting question. And as you may know, since 2006, we have been training teachers, school principals on flexible learning. And the time we have reached to many teachers and school principals all over Southeast Asia. But when you have this pandemic, you have to put all of this learning and insights from the e-courses you got from Simeo into reality. You know, before they attend blended learning, they attend flexible learning with us. But after maybe attending capacity building, it's finished, you know, after getting certificate. But this time they really do it. They really need to show that they know how to run flexible learning courses. So that's one. And the second is I learned a lot about the capacity of our teachers to respond. And most of the teachers are ready to share all the resources, I think most of them. But this is the crisis where we see who can really reach out and serve the wider region. When we call for the ministers to share their strategies, they all supported to share their strategies. When we called on high officials, when we called on partners, they readily shared their online resources for the greater majority. So I think it's really your relationship with the outside world, outside of your institution. It really matters a lot, and the it's like you planted for a long time since 2000, and now we cannot say that we have zero knowledge on flexible learning. So but then we will still continue to learn because it's a lifelong process. So we're learning new things, and the best thing here is the strategic alliances, the partnership you have formed, they're very strong. So I think CNU has been with us as well with Simeo, and some of our flexible learning tutors are from your universities. And so it's really learning together and adapting the new normal together. So I think that's the best lesson. Something you did in the past, but you can still increase or build on the existing programs you have. Thank you, President.
That's well said, no, Ma'am Ethel. So in other words, we really would also invest on human resource, the people, and then we connect with them, and they're helping us now in this time of pandemic. Please say with that question. Yes, Attorney Lisa, would you like to share?
Sure. As far as the University of the Philippines is concerned, I think the strength here also is with the people, especially on the generosity. We don't
Attorney
have,
Lisa, may we a little bit make it louder so for everybody to hear?
yeah, okay, is this better?
That's better.
Okay. As I was saying, the strength of the university is also with the people, especially on the generosity to share their talent. Like, we have the University of the Philippines Open University, and they're into this distance education for quite some time, and they are sharing with us their resources, their open educational resources, their materials, and their chancellor shares with us her thoughts. But even from our University of the Philippines system, they had been conducting webinar trainings for the faculty. It had been like for about 3 Mondays already, and even for the whole of the UP system, faculty-wide. Trainings are being conducted among us, and the next trainings will have to be on how to redesign our courses, how to use all these technologies. Another strength that I would like to cite, which we are very fortunate, just like with the Cebu Normal University, government state U, as a government institution, we had been blessed with resources. In fact, even during the COVID times, we cannot deny it that salaries and benefits were there all the time, unlike with other private universities or other private institutions. We had been very well supported. The third thing that I would like to cite that we had been lucky with is the fact that we had prepared for this in the sense that facilities had been there, even though people may not have utilized them, but the facilities were there. We had invested in fiber optics so that we have a very strong bandwidth. We may not have appreciated this before, but now with the strong bandwidth that we have because of the fiber optics that we had invested in, then we have very good connection. More than that also, we have our very own university virtual learning environment. We don't need to buy private or like Canvas if we don't want to because we had invested in our overlay way before. All we need to do is just train and refresh our faculty on how to use the different facility that we already have. So I think those are the things that I could cite as what we had been or why we are lacking during this time of COVID pandemic.
Thank you, Attorney Lisa. I think I can also share that with you that this at this time, the government employees are the ones who are really blessed because even if they don't have work at all, or even if they work from home, still the salary and all the incentives are given and the support is there. So that's one thing that we can count on. Now, there is a particular question for our SSC President, Dr. Imogen, and also to Sir Umpad, more or less very related. One area of concern for SSC is on internet connectivity and being a problem. And in the context of a COVID-free Sikihor, would you still go for face-to-face and online class, or would you adopt a full face-to-face class for this semester?
For Sikihor State College, we are thinking that we would not fully do online or residential classes, but limit the exposure of the students by letting them come to school twice a week only. As
Yeah,
for
so it's actually more of you still go for blended, the face-to-face and the online. Unlike
Yes.
if you listen to that of Ma'am Ethel, that our elementary graders in Bangkok, Thailand, tomorrow will be coming back to the school, right, Ma'am Ethel? So, but for Sikihor, maybe they're a little bit so hesitant, so they still would have a face-to-face and at the same time the online delivery. How about Sir Ed? Are you really on that particular direction for this first semester? Sir Ed, will you please unmute so that we can hear you, Sir Ed? Yes, Sir Ed, please unmute your microphone. Yeah, okay, there you are. Thank you. Yes, please unmute it again, Sir Ed. Okay, so we cannot still hear you, Sir Ed. Please
Okay.
there you are. Thank you.
For the moment, no, the pandemic has greatly make us realize that there are a lot of things that we need to do in order to cope up with the situation.
Mhm.
And if there is one thing that I realize is that because of the pandemic, we were able to prioritize uh, uh, our budgetary allocation so that in a way we will be able to respond to the problem or to the situation. And for the moment, we are not thinking of doing face-to-face learning instruction, considering that there is really still a threat, no? Although that as being based in the general community, what is that?
About the quarantine, even if you're on a quarantine, yes.
General community quarantine
Quarantine.
are not still very certain that we are already safe, no, in terms of doing some kind of face-to-face learning. And because of that, we need to, for the moment, no, we need to make sure that we deliver instruction by remote or flexible learning strategy that we developed. And if there is one thing that I realize is that, as I was saying earlier, we have a very gap in hearing from the presentations of the University of the Philippines, from the University of San Carlos, and all other sharers in this particular forum. I believe that there are a lot of things that we need to do and to accomplish so that at least we will be able to cope up and respond with the situation. But just the same, within the context of our capacity, we are trying our best so that we will be able to be inclusive as much as possible. We are trying to group our students into different levels according to their capacity, internet connectivity, and there are those who may be grouped for offline learning mode, and aside from that, I should say that our organization is really very stern in terms of this, but it gives us a window of opportunity for us to be able to learn new strategies, hearing from the rest of the resources, not only from this forum, from other forums that I have attended. I have learned a lot of things for us to be able to cope up with the situation. So with that.
Okay, thank you, President Ed. Thank you for that. So you are actually telling us that you are into that direction, and you're very lucky because the local college, the Lapu-Lapu City, is very supportive of this local college. There is this very important question. Maybe we will just entertain. I'm sorry, we can only entertain 3 or 4 for those who are watching us live. I know you have questions, but we can actually entertain 3 or 4 more questions. This is very important, and I think Attorney Lisa can help us on this. All our HEIs, or higher education institutions, are moving towards synchronous learning or online learning and online services. So what steps are your institutions embarking on to protect the databases and the materials developed by our faculty? So it's more of protecting the database, and then maybe if there's a possibility of the breach of this, or some copyright issues. I think this is more or less the question. So, Attorney Lisa, how do you ensure that?
I believe there are 2 things in that question. As far as the system is concerned, how do we protect it that we don't get hacked, there is no data breach? And the other one is as far as the materials and the resources which are uploaded, if the copyright of these materials are also being protected. So let me tackle first as far as the system is concerned, whether or not we are secured as far as the data breach is concerned. If there are hackers who will enter into our database, into our website, into our LMS, as far as our ITC, or the Information Technology Center, is concerned, they do a lot of testing and securing. They do a lot of seminars also on how to have our LMS, our IT environment is being protected. We also subscribe to some software which will prevent attacks. And maybe you've heard it in the news, there were attempts to hack our website, but no data were ever breached because we are well protected. We've also discussed this with the whole of the UP system. Putting it up in the cloud is another good way also to protect from the data breach. As far as our materials are concerned, that we will upload in the sharing of the resources, it depends on the teachers, but generally everyone is saying, or many are amenable to it, that yes, we share for as long as you just give credit to the materials that are being used. But we must also remember that there are materials which are already being uploaded under the common learning resources, like under the UP Open University, which we can also tap. And I believe anyone, if you go there, there are a lot of materials in there which you can use. And these are free. You can use them. So that is how we tackle the issue on the intellectual property.
Thank you, Attorney Lisa. In fact, if you also recall, the Commission on Higher Education just launched the HEdConnect, no, in terms of the sharing of OERs, or open educational resources. So there's a very good sharing, although I might not be able to ask all of that. The answer of Attorney Lisa would suffice. I think Ma'am Ethel and Celian can also share because of the experience of Ma'am Ethel with CIMEO and even with Shed before. There's this question on what can you suggest to promote a continuing and valuable internship alternative during a pandemic, particularly to hard-hit industries like hospitality, tourism, governance. So we are trying to ask your ideas and reflections on this. We have Father or Dr. Valenzuela. Father is smiling, Ma'am Ethel is smiling, both of them. We have ladies first.
Thank you very much, President. That's a very interesting question. And well, we dedicated almost 2 webinars on academic mobility in lockdown. CIMEO has been very active in promoting internship both for teacher education as well as for TVET. And you know, some of our students go for internship for a month for teacher educators, or even as up to 3 months for TVET. because they need to work in institution, in Tibet institution, as well as to work in business or industries. But during this crisis, even for hotels, even for different establishments, they are closed. So we decided in our consultation meeting that for this particular year, we will not have any internship at the moment. But we are developing a platform where there will be exchange of ideas and information, and students can still learn from one another across all 11 countries in Southeast Asia. So we will be introducing this in July, that's already next month, and we have already called for those who are willing to participate in virtual internship. Well, let me say that in internationalization, the concept is that you internationalize higher education program, research services that includes student services, and that also includes teachers. And some key components of internationalization would include, offering international courses or degrees or specializations such as Japanese studies or Chinese studies or Southeast Asian studies and the rest. It also means that teachers can learn from each other or can do joint research collaboration. So what you can do to internationalize and to promote this goal of internationalization is actually to think of those components or domains or dimensions of internationalization that can still be carried out without traveling. There are still those, because internationalization is not just traveling or mobility. It also encompasses other dimensions for teachers and for libraries, for researchers. You can do collaboratively without traveling. But watch out for the next platform that we will be launching, because we have developed something that can be beneficial without moving from one country to another. Thank you so much.
That's very interesting, Ma'am Ethel. So we will be looking forward for that, because we are forced to really, the direction is on there. We cannot just let our students travel. So we are very, very interested to really try that out. Father Celian, what's your take on that question? Father, please unmute, please. Father, we cannot hear you.
Okay. Okay, now.
Father, thank you.
Internship. Okay. The question is, does is virtual internship valid? We can talk about virtual internship as a counterpart or an option for the actual internship. There are ways to pursue that virtual internship, but again, the question is, can it be taken as a valid alternative, and will we be able to achieve similar, if not exactly comparable objectives in terms of competencies? But again, the question here is, for the lack of alternative, then there's this the only thing that we can have now. There is no negotiation here. We know many industries, hotels, restaurants are closed. So what are we going to do that? So maybe virtually even can be done, but in a very limited manner. Because even if you do things virtually, you have to have a context. You have to have an organization. And if those organizations are not active these days, so with whom are they going to do the internship? So maybe creating like other alternative programs by way of webinars, other things. But whether they can be called internship or alternative to internships, that's altogether another question. The other aspect of the question, internationalization, in fact, interestingly, we are having discussions now with our partner universities abroad, and we're thinking about sharing laboratories virtually. So doing experiments on our individual labs and connecting online. And again, the assumption there is our faculty will be able to visit our labs in the same way that their faculties in other countries would also be able to visit their labs, and then hold conversations virtually. That's another issue. What another thing that we're looking at is really a virtual lab, which is basically everything is online. Right? That might be possible on depending on the discipline. Other disciplines will not allow you to do that. So I think it's a case-to-case scenario basis. But I'm talking about labs, but also actually the bigger context here is internalization. But that model can be used. That approach can be borrowed when we convert it into other forms of engagements. That there are possibilities and there are ways, even when you talk of gathering data, collection data, and discussions. But I'm really interested about the internship because I know that we are dependent on the industry. If the partner industry is unable to function normally, then what can we do? We can offer alternatives, but they are not really the exact kind of the perfect solution for that.
Okay, thank you, Father. That's really very true because if you notice, nobody is a PhD in pandemic. In other words, we are not ready. We are not yet very sure. But what is very important is that our ability to be able to thread the unthread and to reach the unreached in terms of all our options and strategies. So the last question, I think there are still other comments. They said that our afternoon is full of learning. Thank you to the speakers. And they are actually very, very thankful and grateful to all of you. So let's have just one last statement and then for a fast talk. Usually they have fast talk. So I will give a sentence, it's not finished, and then you continue it. Whoever would like to continue it. So in this pandemic, we as a sector, our sector is in the academe, we will thrive, we will lead, and we will serve because, continue it. Okay, so anybody who would like to read, so this is the statement. Our sector will continue to thrive, will lead and serve because. Dr. Ed, what is your ending for that sentence?
We continue to thrive, to lead because that is our mandate as an institution. We want
good. Yes, a mandate as an institution. It's okay. Just to. How about Ma'am Jing? Because we continue to thrive, lead, and serve because.
Because we are pliant, we are flexible, we can adjust to every difficult situation we will be confronted with.
Wow, we are bamboos, right? Attorney Lisa, what do you say? Yes, please unmute Attorney Lisa. We will lead, thrive, and serve because. Still we cannot hear you, Attorney. Please unmute.
This pandemic had given us the opportunity to catalyze the transition to a blended and remote way of doing learning.
Okay, so Father, what do you say? We thrive, we lead and serve because?
Because we need to do it. There's no other way around.
We need to do it. Correct, there's no choice, right? That's precisely very pragmatic, Father. What about Ma'am Eva, what do you say?
Because we live in a community of nations and we also live in one world. And this is the only planet we got. So we need to really contribute to, proactive thinking. We need to contribute a lot, open educational resources, and we need to equip our teachers and our learners the necessary information. This is a global and social responsibility.
Correct. So in other words, we have no choice. It's a social responsibility, and we are all in this together. That's why I'm very sure we will all thrive, we continue to lead, and we continue to serve. At this point in time, Cebu Normal University would like to express our deep gratitude and recognition to all of you who have shared your time, your expertise, and I know that our colleagues and those who are our stakeholders have learned a lot from all of you this afternoon. At this point in time, may I request Attorney Lisa and the certificate of recognition. Please allow me to read. Can we have our certificate of recognition? Cebu Normal University presents a certificate of recognition to Attorney Lisa D. Coro in grateful acknowledgement for sharing her wisdom on the topic, reframing the landscape of learning, the leaders' voices, during the Higher Education Connect, as an online panel discussion with higher education leaders on June 30, 2020 via the CNU PIO Facebook Live. Signed, our Director for Center for Research and Development, Dr. Garcia, and yours truly, Dr. Diagbil, the SUC President 3. So we will virtually imagine that Attorney Lisa would be receiving a certificate of recognition. The same citation goes to our second speaker, Dr. Eduardo A. Umpad. Same citation, Sir Ed, our heartfelt recognition for a job well done. Another certificate of recognition to our third speaker. Yes, Dr. Ethel Agnes P. Valenzuela, the same citation, our embrace of love from the university. Thank you so much. Our fourth certificate of recognition for our fourth speaker, Dr. Maria Eugen P. Kilikut. Thank you so much, Ma'am, and stay COVID-free and secure. Thank you for all the valuable inputs. And our last but not the least, the newest in the brood of presidents, our certificate of recognition to Father Narciso A. Cilian Jr., SVD. My dear colleagues in the profession, thank you for being with us. Our panel of speakers, our deepest gratitude, RD Alhibi, and all those who have actually helped us. Our director, Dr. Garcia, Dr. Ovidio, our ICTO, who has been also helping us, Sir Omar. Thank you, and it has been a wonderful learning opportunity with all of you. Michelle, please.
Thank you, Dr. Diagbil, and our distinguished panel for the insights that you have shared to all of us this afternoon. Truly, not a single university or college is fully prepared for the challenges brought about by this pandemic. And yet we see that our strength lies not on our individuality, but in our ability to come together and help each other rise. Here to give the synthesis for today's session is the director of the CNU Center for Research and Development and Research Institute for Aging and Health, Dr. Lawrence L. Garcia.
Our university president, Dr. Diagbil, and the distinguished panel members, mayong hapon. Good afternoon, especially to all those joining us through Facebook Live. Life as we knew it changed overnight when COVID-19 arrived, and no nation or industry has been spared. The invisible enemy quickly altered the way we interact and engage with one another. Higher education is one of the casualties of the pandemic, and many experts have already inferred that colleges and universities are on the brink of collapse, and it is a fact that many educational institutions, especially the small ones, have closed. But we are so glad this afternoon that we are able to hear great lessons and stories from the leaders of how their institutions thrive, lead, and serve during the pandemic. They were badly hit, but were successful enough to overcoming all the unexpected challenges this year. The long-term consequences for colleges and universities and the value of the on-campus versus digital experience are both valid concerns. Educational institutions are faced with a challenge on access to technical infrastructure, competencies and pedagogies for distance learning, and the requirements for the specific program. It is noticeable that the students, especially those who lack requirements or those who lag behind, got off the hook quite so easily because of the considerations being given to them due to the present circumstances that we are in. However, not only were the students who were constrained with internet connectivity and insufficient gadget or equipment, but so were the teachers. As we listen to our discussants, the following important points were highlighted. It is important to thrive. Administration and academic heads must not make light of the matter. The mindset of the faculty, especially the older ones who are resistant to change because they are already being comfortable with the traditional way of teaching and learning, must be changed to embrace the reality that they have to adapt to flexible learning modalities, including online platforms, to thrive in this business of educating the students. This perhaps is actually the most challenging. Capacity building activities must be conducted to train the teachers and the students in the use of the new platforms and acceptance of the traditional way of teaching and learning, and recognize the shift to another mode. To lead, higher education institutions must invest in the acquisition of learning management systems, strengthen research efforts, data monitoring, and evidence-based decision-making, and the recognition of opportunities for innovative ways of teaching and creation of powerful learning environments. And to serve, incorporate online mental health and medical services, support for displaced personnel and students, and provision of inclusive and equitable education. The one issue that hasn't received enough attention and consideration globally is the negative impact that remote learning will have on diversity, equity, and inclusion if it becomes the new normal. However, clearly in the discussion with our panel members, inclusiveness and equity is the principle behind every decision our leaders make. And that there are no quick fixes or hard and fast rule to address the educational needs in the Philippines in the light of the pandemic, but we use this window of opportunity to think about a longer perspective, not only as a reaction to the pandemic, but also as an occasion to fashion a new and renewed society. Indeed, it was an afternoon of learning and sharing best practices. We learned from the premier state university, a performing local college, a leading state college from the COVID-free island, and the big brother of higher education institutions in the region. Of course, the global perspective from the ministers of education. The things we do today will be written as part of the country and the world's history. The decisions that we do and the actions that we make will be remembered as how academia contributed to addressing the disequilibrium. May I quote what Father Miranda said, one of my favorite bosses, stated in Father Celian's presentation? A side effect of the pandemic is the acceleration of growth of online education. Thus, the appropriate response is to carefully document the gaps and seek viable solutions instead of shelving it completely. So may we thrive gracefully, rise to the leadership, and serve faithfully as we continue to face more challenges amid the pandemic. Mayong hapon kanatong tanan.
May hapon. Thank you.
As one family, the university reaffirmed its commitment to sustain excellence and cultivate significance. The normal may be new, but Cebu Normal remains steadfast in its commitment to thrive and excel, to lead and to serve. This ends the first session of Higher Education Connect. Thank you very much for your participation and good afternoon to all of us.
Good afternoon. Thank you, CNU. Congrats.
Thank you.
Cebu Normal University, the name we thrive. To you we give our loyalty, your light to be our guide. Cebu Normal University, we hail the name with pride. To you we give our loyalty, your light will be our guide. Your virgin dreams of crimson and gold, through generations we will uphold your might and fame, throughout the reign. Oh, see and you all things we see. In